Chapter 307. Nanching Temple was built in the deepest part of Nanching Street, and the whole street got its name from Nanching Temple. In the hundreds of years since the founding of Zhongzhou State, Yuzhou had become more and more prosperous. Today, Nanching Temple had become one of the few buildings of the previous dynasty in Yuzhou City. Nanching Street was narrow and deep. 2 rows of straight poplars were planted on both sides of the street. The dense canopies of the thick poplars almost covered the sky. Standing in the middle of the street and looking up at the sky, there was only a line left. This was known as one of the quietest streets in Yuzhou. There were no huge residential areas and dense small shops on both sides of the street, only 2 neat rows of dark cyan small buildings. The poplars were straight. The buildings were neat. Like an army. The wind blew in Yuzhou at dusk. There was no dusk on the horizon, and the whole sky was gloomy. The wind before the rain poured into Nanching Street, and the rows of poplars rustled. It seemed that there was only the sound of the wind in the world. Nanching Temple sat quietly at the end of the street, quiet and solemn in the wind. Nanching Temple was not a temple. The star flag of Zhongzhou State fluttered in front of the gate, and the national emblem of Zhongzhou State with shining stars hung at the gate of the temple, looking extremely dignified. This was the office of the second department of the General Staff. The second department was the most mysterious and free department of the General Staff. Its staff was complicated, and the number of people outside the establishment was countless times more than that inside the establishment. The main task of the second department was to set up intelligence networks, collect intelligence, organize and analyze it, and take necessary actions according to national interests when necessary. So the second department of the General Staff had a name that was recognized by everyone. The Military Intelligence Department of Zhongzhou State. The gloomy day turned into night in the wind. In the beautiful Nanching Temple, a young short-haired woman opened the door of a side hall, turned off the lights inside, and walked directly to the gate of Nanching Temple. The woman was tall and slender. She was indescribably seductive. She was dressed very simply. She wore ordinary canvas shoes and a pair of light blue jeans that wrapped around her slender legs and round buttocks. She wore an ordinary white short-sleeved shirt. She did not have any makeup on. She looked simple and natural. The former enchantment seemed to be fading away from her. Pureness settled into maturity. Her long, silky hair turned into a short, sharp haircut. Steadiness replaced liveliness. Her figure was lonely and even weak, but with an indescribable stubbornness. It was an indescribable beauty. Nanching Temple was quiet and gloomy at night. The woman was carrying a simple handbag. Walking quietly in the flourishing Nanching Temple, it was as if he had lit up the entire night sky. He had been in Yuzhou for more than a year. Whether it was day or night, she was always the most beautiful scenery in Nanching Temple and the most beautiful color on Nanching Street. Yuetong, working overtime again? A gentle voice sounded. Under the night sky, Nanching Temple was illuminated by a faint light. A figure with a blurry face was standing there. Wang Yuetong couldn't see his face clearly, but from his military uniform, especially the marshal's epaulet, she could clearly judge his identity. General Yi. Wang Yuetong stood at attention and saluted. She said in a flat tone, "Why are you here?" Standing in front of her was the god of army of Zhongzhou State, Yi Dongsheng. Yi Dongsheng's personal force was not extremely powerful, and his realm of the thunder-shocking realm was just something he could show off. He was known as the god of army of Zhongzhou State, and the proudest thing about him was his brain. Over the years, Yi Dongsheng was the best candidate to be the commander in several covert foreign disputes and numerous large-scale military exercises in Zhongzhou State. And the wars he commanded were almost never defeated. Although Zhongzhou State suffered heavy losses in the final battle of Heaven Capital, it was not Yi Dongsheng's fault. Zhongzhou State valued the cooperation with the Samsara Palace too much. As a result, when the Samsara Palace made a move, all of Yi Dongsheng's plans suddenly became useless. And this matter more or less had an impact on his promotion. If not, when Qi Beizong, the standing minister of the army headquarters of Zhongzhou State, retired 2 years ago, Yi Dongsheng would become the strongest opponent of Dongqing Wudi. Once Yi Dongsheng won, the overall power of the Wang family of Beihai and the southeast faction would expand rapidly, and some more and more obvious hidden dangers would be suppressed by Yi Dongxing. To say the least, even if Yi Dongxing failed in the end, the Wang family of Beihai could get more chips, and it would be easier to trade with the Dongxing clan for the border control corps. Unfortunately, all of this came to nothing because of the betrayal of the Samsara Palace in the final battle of Heaven Capital, which directly led to Yi Dongxing's serious lack of competitiveness when competing with Dongxing Wudi. In fact, the Wang family of Beihai and the Southeast Group were really having a bad time in recent years. The hidden dangers inside the Wang family of Beihai were getting more and more serious, and the internal conflicts had been escalating in the past 2 years. Now it had reached the point where all discerning people could detect it. In the past 3 years, the Wang family of Beihai had at least 2 opportunities to eliminate this hidden danger. The first was that Yi Dongxing became the new giant of the empire. If he defeated Dongxing Wudi and took over, all the hidden dangers would be suppressed. Unfortunately, it was Dongxing Wudi, the commander of the Border Control Corps, who came up in the end. Yi Dongxing was still suppressed as the deputy minister of the army headquarters and the minister of the general staff. The second opportunity was for Wang Xingxiao to inherit the dragon vein. If Wang Xingxiao merged the dragon vein after breaking through the peak of the thunder-shocking realm, he could enter the invincible realm in just 1 or 2 years with the help of the immortality potion. This could also eliminate the hidden dangers inside the Wang family of Beihai. But when the Wang family of Beihai was still preparing for these, he had already perfected his martial arts with the help of the dragon vein. So the hidden dangers of the Wang family of Beihai still existed. The nerves of every big shot of the Southeast Group were getting tighter and tighter. In the dim light, Wang Yuetong took 2 steps forward. She could clearly see the solemnity in Yi Dongxing's eyes. Wang Yuetong hesitated a little, but in the end, she didn't ask anything. Yi Dongxing sighed tiredly, looked at Wang Yuetong, and said with a chuckle, "I'm here for a meeting and to see you. Yuetong, you haven't called me Uncle Yi for a long time. I work in the general staff, and now I'm a soldier under your command. It's not appropriate to call me Uncle Yi," Wang Yuetong said lightly. Yi Dongxing looked at Wang Yuetong as if he were looking at a child in a fit of pique. He knew that Wang Yuetong held a grudge against him. It was Wang Tianzong's arrangement that she came to work in the general staff. The general staff had always been the traditional sphere of influence of the Southeast Group. Yi Dongxing, as the deputy minister of the army headquarters, was in charge of the general staff, and he managed the place well. Wang Yuetong worked in the general staff, which meant that she had always been under his eyes. It was not surveillance, but Yi Dongxing paid a lot of attention to Wang Yuetong's movements. Wang Yuetong naturally didn't like this feeling. "What's wrong with it?" Yi Dongxing sighed. "I was your grandfather's secretary for nearly 10 years. For a few years, your father put you in foster care at our home. I watched you grow up." Wang Yuetong looked calm and did not say a word. She was like a withered but stubborn flower that refused to wither. "Yuetong, now your father and I are under a lot of pressure. You can't be willful at this time," Yi Dongxing said helplessly. "I'm not willful, but I don't think marrying Jiang Shangyu will help you," Wang Yuetong said lightly. Yi Dongxing took a deep breath. "You don't have to marry Jiang Shangyu. On this matter, your father didn't give Jiang Shan a clear answer. He just wants you to come to Yuzhou and get in touch with other young people. You don't like Jiang Shangyu, but what about others? Over the past year, there have been more than double digits of people pursuing you, many of whom have excellent family backgrounds and moral characters. Don't you like any of them?" "I don't like them," Wang Yuetong said without hesitation. "I already have someone I like. How can I like others?" "You're acting in a fit of pique," Yi Dongxing snorted. He and Wang Tianzong were very good friends, so he treated Wang Yuetong like his own daughter. "Think about it carefully. Do you really like Li Tianlan? How long have you been in contact with him? I admit that he is excellent, and he does have the possibility to impress you, but that's not all. You and he may have admired each other. You think it's love, but it's not at all. You're just acting in a fit of pique. If your father didn't bring you back from Li Tianlan, you wouldn't have contacted him for 3 years. Maybe your feelings for him would have faded. He did a stupid thing. It's because he brought you back to Beihai that you feel unreconciled. Li Tianlan, who used to be unimportant, has become very important. Girl, isn't that willful? No. Wang Yuedong's voice was still faint, without any ups and downs, without the youthful vigor that belonged to young people. Uncle Yi, you don't understand. She said softly, I can be sure of my feelings, but I don't want to explain it. We don't spend much time together, but I feel at ease and calm when I stay with him. Feelings can't be measured by the length of time. Yi Dongxing remained silent. After a long time, he took a deep breath and said with a bitter smile, well, even if you're sure of your feelings, can you be sure of Li Tianlan's feelings? You like him, but does he like you? Qin Weibai is his woman, and Dongqing Rushi is his fiancé. To be frank, Dongqing Rushi is no worse than you, and Qin Weibai is even more. Ahem, girl, have you ever thought about this? Even if you're by his side, what position do you have? Wang Yuetong froze on the spot. The wind in the night sky gradually dissipated. The clouds pressed down. It began to rain in Yuzhou, drop by drop. Wang Yuetong stood quietly in the rain, and her eyes were as blank as the rain under the night sky. I don't know. She said softly, her voice simple and confused. She really didn't know. For 3 years, she had never thought about this question. She just instinctively persisted and didn't want to give up. Yi Dongxing looked at Wang Yuetong with complicated eyes and said softly, since you don't know, why are you still persisting? Wang Yuetong suddenly laughed. It seemed to be the first time for her to smile in a long time. In a trance, she seemed to have returned to her former state, pure, lively, and enchanting. She tidied the short hair on her forehead and said softly, I just want my father to admit that only my persistence over the years is right. The man I like is the most right. She looked at Yi Dongxing and continued, Uncle Yi, if the contradictions and hidden dangers of the Wang family of Beihai really break out completely, and my father and brother can't suppress it, only he has the ability to solve everything, as long as he can grow up. He does have the ability. Yi Dongxing's voice was cold and straightforward. But does he have a position? I am his position. Wang Yuetong said calmly, my man, whether he is an ambitious or a heavenly son, will be affectionate. I believe that. How could he become a heavenly son without affection? Wang Tianzong himself didn't seem to notice this. But Wang Yuetong always believed it. She believed that she was right. I want to ask for leave. Wang Yuetong looked at Yi Dongxing and said softly. This was not the first time she had asked for leave. Since the first day Li Tianlan returned to Huading, she had written a leave request report to her leader. However, her report was conveyed to the leader level by level and finally reached Yi Dongxing's desk. Yi Dongxing didn't approve it. Wang Yuetong didn't move. Because she knew very well that if the leave was not approved, she couldn't leave Yuzhou. Yi Dongxing was silent for a long time. Just when Wang Yuedong's heart became cold again, he finally nodded. Yes. Yi Dongxing said. Wang Yuetong froze in place for a while, looking at Yi Dongxing in a daze and didn't speak. You can go to Huading and see Li Tianlan. Yi Dongxing lowered his eyelids, hiding all his eyes. Wang Yuetong suddenly panicked. 3 years. So many struggles, so many thoughts, so many tortures. Wang Yuetong never doubted her feelings, nor did she escape her lovesickness. Now Li Tianlan was in Huading. She was in Yuzhou. She had a holiday. As long as she wanted, she could see the man she yearned for day and night in a few hours. But at this moment, Wang Yuedong's heart suddenly panicked. The positions of the Wang family of Beihai and the Li family suddenly became extremely sharp and clear. The scenes when they parted also began to reappear in her mind. Wang Yuetong was a little scared. She wanted to see Li Tianlan, but she didn't dare. She wanted to go to Huading, but she needed a reason. Yi Dongxing took out an invitation and handed it to Wang Yuetong. This is an invitation for you, an invitation from Jiang Shangyu. Tomorrow night, he will hold a banquet on the Huangpu River. It's a summit meeting of the young generation. Li Tianlan will go. Wang Yuedong's breathing suddenly quickened. She suddenly felt grateful to Jiang Shangyu. Because this invitation card was the reason she needed the most. She took the invitation with trembling hands, suddenly bowed deeply to Yi Dongsheng, and ran directly to the door. She staggered, not wanting to wait any longer. Your father asked me to tell you something. Yi Dongsheng's voice sounded behind her, clear and steady. Don't think too lowly of yourself. At least in his heart, you are nobler than anyone else. Wang Yuedong's figure was slightly stiff. She thought of the increasingly poor father-daughter relationship with her father in the past few years. Wang Yuedong's heart ached, and she directly rushed out of Nanching Temple. Li Tianlan stayed in the Sky Academy for nearly a week. He didn't return to the director's compound in Wudong New area until Li Beidian, Su Chu, and Ning Qianqing's injury stabilized. Dongqing Rushi had been living here. Zhou Yuanshan had returned to Zhongyuan. Dongqing Chuchi was still working and hadn't gotten off work. So when Li Tianlan came back, only Dongqing Rushi and the golden retriever were sitting in the living room. Dongqing Rushi was reading a book. The golden retriever was quietly lying at her feet, staring at the cartoon on TV. No one knew what it was observing. Seeing Li Tianlan come back, the golden retriever directly rushed over and hung on Li Tianlan. Dongqing Rushi also seemed a little happy. You're back. Li Tianlan nodded, caressed the golden retriever's head, and put it on the ground. He said, the first group of elites of the Deep Sea Academy has already arrived at the Sky Academy. I heard about it. Dongqing Rushi poured a glass of water for Li Tianlan. Her eyelashes fluttered gently, and her bright eyes sparkled with a little smile. She was a little shy, a little proud, and a little clear and soft. You seriously injured Gu Yunxia and defeated Song Ci. You're very powerful. Dongqing Rushi's voice was clear, and she said honestly, I can't defeat Song Ci. Song Ci is indeed very powerful. Li Tianlan nodded. Song Ci was actually not difficult to deal with in a normal state. But once she went all out with the martial arts elites of the Wang family of Beihai, the combat capability that erupted in an instant was almost unrivaled in the thunder-shocking realm. Although Li Tianlan defeated her, he would not belittle her. Dongqing Rushi sat next to Li Tianlan and naturally grabbed one of his hands and put it on her leg. Dongqing Rushi changed into a tight white jumpsuit today. Li Tianlan's palm could clearly feel the warmth and elasticity of her thigh through a thin layer of cloth. His heart jumped uncontrollably, and then he said as if nothing had happened, when are we going to meet them? We can go to the maneuver one day in advance. I'll be with you. Dongqing Rushi said honestly. Li Tianlan thought for a moment. Then shall we go to East Emperor Palace? Dongqing Rushi's eyes lit up. Before she could speak, the phone suddenly rang. Dongqing Rushi picked up the phone, looked at it, and said softly, it's father. You answer it? You answer it. Li Tianlan shook his head. The enthusiasm of the Dongqing clan always made him feel that he could not bear it. But after that night, Li Tianlan felt that there was less and less room for him to dodge. He subconsciously looked at Dongqing Rushi's small mouth. Red, full, gentle, it was a little jerky, but very flexible. Li Tianlan's body felt hot. He picked up the water glass in front of him and took a big sip. Dongqing Rushi felt Li Tianlan's gaze. She blushed, picked up the phone, and called Dad. Rushi, are you with Tianlan? Dongqing Wudi's voice was very soft. Dongqing Rushi said obediently, he's watching cartoons next to me. Li Tianlan looked at the two funny bears on TV with a helpless face. Dongqing Wudi smiled with some relief. Well, it's good to be together. You should get to know each other more. Dongqing Rushi said, Dad, what happened? Dongqing Wudi was silent for a while, and then said slowly, nothing, but in the final maneuver a month later, you should join East Emperor Palace. Tianlan has few helpers now. Okay. Dongqing Rushi nodded without hesitation. I'll discuss it with him. Dongqing Wudi smiled and hung up the phone. What's wrong? Li Tianlan asked subconsciously, but when he turned his head, his eyes fell on Dongqing Rushi's small mouth instinctively. Dongqing Rushi couldn't bear it. When she thought of what happened that night, she suddenly became a little ashamed and angry. What are you looking at? Li Tianlan also felt that he was very wretched. He coughed awkwardly and said, nothing. What did the marshal say? Dongqing Rushi hesitated and finally shook her head. Nothing, just chatting. She finally decided to do it herself. Li Tianlan felt embarrassed and didn't ask more. Dongqing Rushi suddenly leaned over and kissed him on the face, then sat next to him. Li Tianlan's body trembled, and he subconsciously glanced at her. Your heart is beating fast, and your eyes are strange. Dongqing Rushi bit her lip. It's daytime now, night. Li Tianlan's mind went blank, and the heat in his body almost made him lose his mind. He gasped a few times, suddenly reached out, lifted Dongqing Rushi's chin, and looked at her small mouth and was about to kiss it. A burst of cold killing intent burst out from Dongqing Rushi in an instant. Li Tianlan froze and subconsciously loosened his palm. The clarity in Dongqing Rushi's eyes gradually disappeared, and she became confused, but the killing intent was getting stronger and stronger. There was a flash of thought in her eyes. Li Tianlan's face changed, and he narrowed his eyes. Now the one who woke up in Dongqing Rushi's body was undoubtedly Dongqing Yueshan. Dongqing Yueshan, whose eyes were a little confused, suddenly changed her face, and her beautiful face suddenly became red. She seemed to think of something, and her eyes suddenly became cold. That night, which made Dongqing Rushi extremely ashamed and angry, was completely an unbearable humiliation for her. What made her especially unbearable was the end of that night. Whether it was intentional or not, Li Tianlan actually got it on her face. Dongqing Yueshan's eyes suddenly became incomparably cold. She stared at Li Tianlan, and her delicate body couldn't stop trembling. You, how dare you blaspheme me? She looked at Li Tianlan with a face full of disbelief. Blaspheme. Just one word was enough to show how arrogant Dongqing Yueshan was. I'm just spoiling my fiancé. Chapter 308. At the beginning of July. It was raining heavily in Huading. The messy rain fell from early morning to evening, and it didn't stop at all. Instead, it got heavier and heavier. The banquet on the Huangpu River, known as the Summit of the Young Generation, was not cancelled. Jiang Shangyu, who had already arrived in Huading, reiterated the starting time of the banquet. Li Tianlan and Dongqing Yueshan set off an hour earlier and were close to their destination when the banquet was about to begin. The gloomy sky gradually became dark in the pouring rain. The raindrops hit the car window, and the wipers danced lightly on the windshield, bringing with them patches of water. Dongqing Yueshan drove the car expressionlessly, looking straight ahead. When the two personalities alternated on her, if she didn't disguise herself, she would have two completely different temperaments. Dongqing Rushi was beautiful and innocent, well-behaved and elegant, silly and adorable, like a clear spring without impurities. It was crystal clear. Dongqing Yueshan never hid her indifference. It was a kind of indifference that rejected the whole world, with too many complicated melancholy and quietness. The same body. But the two personalities represented two completely different wills. I remember when you were in Heaven Capital, you said that even when Rushi appeared, you could feel everything that happened outside. Li Tianlan sat in the passenger seat and suddenly said. After Dongqing Yueshan appeared in place of Dongqing Rushi, the two didn't fight in the council yard. On the contrary, Dongqing Yueshan seemed to swallow everything. Dongqing Chuchi didn't go back last night. When the two were alone, they even slept in different rooms last night, not to mention any erotic contact. Li Tianlan could feel that Dongqing Yueshan seemed to be trying hard to suppress her emotions, but intentionally or unintentionally, she still clearly revealed her disgust for him. But she still didn't make a move. Li Tianlan knew it was not a good thing. When Dongxing Yueshan's attitude was so clear, she didn't make a move, which could only mean that she was still waiting for an opportunity. Just like the lovesickness under the thunder in heaven capital. I'm meditating. Otherwise, how can our strength improve so fast? If not, how can you desecrate my body, you bastard? You actually got it on my face, you. Dongxing Yueshan's face turned red, and her black and white eyes stared at Li Tianlan fiercely. You hate me. Li Tianlan said calmly. The anger on Dongxing Yueshan's beautiful face suddenly froze. Then she turned her head fiercely, gritted her teeth and said, No, but I don't like you either. I can understand. Li Tianlan nodded. It was easy to accept that there was a subpersonality behind the main personality that was obedient to him. But Rushi is my fiancée. I don't think that level of contact is too much. She is your fiancée, and so am I. Dongxing Yueshan sneered and said, But are you going to fulfill the engagement? If you're willing to marry me, I'll let you do whatever you want to me. I can even accept more extreme things, but are you willing? Li Tianlan suddenly fell silent. Look. Dongxing Yueshan sneered. Her crisp voice became a bit sharp, but it was still pleasant. You just want to play with us. You're tired of playing with Dongxing Rushi's personality, so you come to play with me. After you're tired of me, you just leave? Why should I accept you? Rushi doesn't care if you have other women, but I do. Do you want to have sex with me? Sure, as long as you draw a line with that woman in samsara, you can have me at any time. Otherwise, don't even think about touching me. Li Tianlan couldn't give an answer. No answer. In Dongxing Yueshan's heart, it was already an answer. She sneered and also fell silent. Li Tianlan took out a cigarette. When he was fumbling for a lighter, Dongxing Yueshan had already thrown a silver metal lighter to him. Li Tianlan froze for a moment and said thank you. Rushi went out to buy it a few days ago. No need to thank me. Dongxing Yueshan said coldly. Li Tianlan smoked silently and didn't speak. The atmosphere in the car was getting more and more depressing. After a while, Dongxing Yueshan finally couldn't help sighing and said, Li Tianlan, what do you dislike about us? Do you want all of us in the Dongxing clan to kneel in front of you before you'll marry us? No. Li Tianlan's heart twitched fiercely. He took a deep drag on the cigarette and said softly, the Dongxing clan is very good. I mean it. If the Li family was still at its peak, it would be okay for you to do this. But now that the Li family is in such a situation, you are still willing to treat me like this. I believe that no one can do this except the Dongxing clan. I am very grateful and touched. Then you, Dongxing Yueshan, who had calmed down a little, was a little confused. You should have a good ending. Li Tianlan said slowly, instead of following me to the unknown. If I marry you, I will tie the Dongxing clan to my side. You know the opponent I will face. If I win, the Dongxing clan will not benefit, at least not much. But if I lose, the entire Dongxing clan may be dragged into the abyss by me. Marriage may not have such a strong constraint, but once I accept the marriage, I will get the full support of the Dongxing clan. Li Tianlan's smile was a little bitter. At this moment, all the members of the Dongxing clan became clear in his mind. The kind and hearty Dongxing Hongguang. The silent but powerful Dongxing Wudi. The affectionate and gentle Bai Qingxian. The gentle and affable Dongxing Chuchi. The lovely and beautiful Dongxing Rushi, they should have a good ending. To be honest, I'm afraid that I can't afford such support. This kind of affection is too heavy, so heavy that I feel like a sinner. Li Tianlan took a deep drag on the cigarette and murmured again, you should have a good ending. Dongxing Yueshan's fingers trembled quietly, and she suddenly grasped the steering wheel. Her face was a little pale, and her eyes looking at Li Tianlan were all complicated. Is that why you won't marry us? Dongxing Yueshan said softly. There's another reason. Li Tianlan threw away the cigarette butt and looked at Dongxing Yueshan. His eyes were deep and distant. In heaven capital, it was you most of the time, wasn't it? He looked at Dongxing Yueshan's evasive eyes and said blandly, "That night, why did you want to kill me? I dare not accept the affection of the Dongxing clan. I can't marry you. I also can't marry a woman who wants to kill me at any time. I dare not marry you." Li Tianlan looked at Dongxing Yueshan, and his expression was very sincere. "I'm very curious. Is it because of our engagement that you want to kill me?" "I didn't want to kill you. Are you still angry?" Dongxing Yueshan bit her lip and looked at Li Tianlan carefully. Her eyes were as clear as water. Li Tianlan's heart instantly sank. "Kiss me," Li Tianlan suddenly said. "Ah." Her face was red, and her eyes were bright, and she was a little happy. She slowed down the car, hesitated, and leaned over to kiss Li Tianlan gently on the face. "Are you done?" She looked at Li Tianlan and asked. "Yes." Li Tianlan took a deep look at her, and his smile was slightly bitter. He could be sure that at this moment, the person sitting next to him was Dongxing Rushi. Dongxing Yueshan's personality finally chose to escape. It was a stormy day. Jiang Shanyu calmly showed his privilege. The number 1 pier of Binshan Road was completely blocked, leaving only a special passage for people to enter. A 5-story white luxury cruise ship was quietly parked, and the cruise ship was brightly lit. When Li Tianlan and Dongxing Rushi entered the pier, there were still 10 minutes before the banquet officially began. There were already many figures moving back and forth on the top deck. The lights shone on the crowd, and it became extremely clear in Li Tianlan's sight. The heavy rain fell wildly from the sky. The space on the 5th floor was not blocked at all, but at this time, everywhere was dry, without a trace of moisture. This was the summit meeting of the young generation. Tonight, those who were perfunctory were at least young experts who had entered the fire-flaming realm. The heavy rain had completely evaporated before it fell. In the storm, dozens of fire-flaming realm experts stood there, and the space within 100 meters around the entire cruise ship was dry, without a single drop of rain, let alone on the deck of the 5th floor. Li Tianlan didn't see Jiang Shanyu. He didn't see Gu Hanshan. But he saw Wang Xingxiao. At this time, Wang Xingxiao was standing in front of the railing with Song Ci, chatting with several young experts around him. Song Ci, who was gorgeous and almost flamboyant, still looked pale, but she was extremely energetic. Li Tianlan's eyes suddenly froze. In an instant, Wang Xingxiao's eyes swept over. Li Tianlan, Wang Xingxiao. Song Ci, Dongxing Rushi. 4 pairs of eyes directly collided in the air. There seemed to be a strange and suffocating atmosphere spreading throughout the cruise ship. Li Tianlan looked at Wang Xingxiao calmly. Wang Xingxiao's cold eyes with killing intent gradually faded. Finally, he smiled brightly and waved at Li Tianlan. "Let's go." Li Tianlan boarded the cruise ship. Dongxing Rushi obediently took Li Tianlan's arm. Today, she wore a long white dress, elegant, quiet, and beautiful like a fairy. The two walked side by side onto the cruise ship and went straight to the top floor. More and more people knew that Li Tianlan had boarded the cruise ship. Under everyone's different gazes, Li Tianlan and Dongxing Rushi went straight to the 5th floor. The two figures appeared at the top of the stairs. Everyone had different looks in their eyes. On the other side, Jiang Shanyu and Gu Hanshan had already walked over. Wang Xingxiao and Song Ci directly approached Li Tianlan. Most of the young experts with lower levels of martial arts were looking at Dongxing Rushi's hand holding Li Tianlan's arm. Because this hand represented the attitude of the Dongxing clan. But the real top experts were looking at Li Tianlan. Wang Xingxiao's eyebrows twitched a few times. Gu Hanshan, who came over, raised his eyebrows slightly. Jiang Shangyu's eyes became deeper and deeper. The sword strike that Li Tianlan hit Gu Yunxia hard. The battle between him and Song Ci had already become a video and spread all over Zhongzhou state. Several top young experts vaguely felt that there was something wrong with Li Tianlan in the battle state. But Li Tianlan, who appeared in front of them now, was normal and there was nothing wrong with him. No one knew what was going on, but at least no one would think that it was a problem with the video. Li Tianlan's eyes were looking at Song Ci, at her pale face. You recover quickly. Li Tianlan smiled and said blandly. He could roughly know Song Ci's injury. Under normal circumstances, Song Ci didn't even have the ability to get out of bed, let alone appear here. With her injury, it was very likely that she wouldn't be able to recover her combat capability within a month. But now, although she was still injured, her injury was almost healed. This kind of recovery speed was not in line with common sense at all. I've always been in good health. Song Ci took a deep look at Li Tianlan and said blandly, I'll remember that sword strike. Next time, I won't let you succeed so easily. Really? Li Tianlan said blandly, do you think you still have a chance? As I said, I've always been in good health. I'll see you in the maneuver a month later. Song Ci's tone was cold. Li Tianlan smiled and nodded, saying, your body is really good, and your vitality is even stronger. Song Ci's face changed slightly, and she snorted, in terms of physical strength, I'm at least stronger than you. Li Tianlan's smile froze. He narrowed his eyes and said nothing. Seeing his expression, Song Ci and Wang Xingxiao's eyes lit up almost at the same time. I haven't seen you for 3 years, Your Highness. Welcome to Qingshan, Your Highness. A clear laugh sounded behind Li Tianlan. Jiang Shangyu strode over. Li Tianlan turned to look at Jiang Shangyu. It was true that they hadn't seen each other for 3 years. The last time they met, Li Tianlan personally sent Jiang Shangyu out of Heaven Capital. He almost died in the dense forest of Heaven Capital. This could be said to be a life-and-death feud. But Jiang Shangyu seemed to have forgotten this. His eyes were calm, and his smile was only sincere. And he still called him Your Highness. Li Tianlan reached out and shook hands with him, saying with a chuckle, you seem to have had a good time these 3 years? Not bad, comfortable. I'm too far behind you, so I don't want to compete with you. Jiang Shangyu said with a smile. Li Tianlan took a serious look at him, a little surprised and a little vigilant. 3 years ago, Jiang Shangyu was already at the peak of the fire-flaming realm, and even a half-step to the thunder-shocking realm. But today, 3 years later, Jiang Shangyu was still a half-step to the thunder-shocking realm. His martial arts realm seemed unchanged. But vaguely, Li Tianlan felt that Jiang Shangyu was stronger than Song Ci, who was at the peak of the thunder-shocking realm. You're modest. Li Tianlan said calmly. Gu Hanshan had come over. Li Tianlan turned around calmly. At the same time, the last guest of the party climbed the stairs of the 5th floor alone. Li Tianlan suddenly froze. The last guest, who seemed to be looking for something on the cruise ship, also froze in place. She was wearing a red off-the-shoulder dress, which made her skin look even fairer and more tender. She was wearing a pair of strappy high heels, and her tall figure seemed to be prouder. Her neat and capable short hair. Her beautiful face with some persistence and stubbornness. Li Tianlan's eyes drifted in a trance. Wang Yuetong. He didn't expect to see Wang Yuetong tonight. And it was Wang Yuetong, who was like a different person from 3 years ago. Wang Yuetong looked at Li Tianlan in a daze. The top floor of the cruise ship seemed to be quiet. Jiang Shangyu's expression didn't change, but a vague light flashed in his eyes. Under everyone's gaze, Wang Yuetong took a few steps forward on her own initiative. She walked up to Li Tianlan, and her watery eyes quickly glanced at Dongqing Rushi, who was holding Li Tianlan's arm. Then she took the initiative to speak softly, Senior Brother Tianlan, are you okay? Li Tianlan opened his mouth. His voice was dry, but he was extremely calm. I'm fine. How about you? I'm not okay. Chapter 309. Wang Yuetong's voice was low. But the sentence, I'm not good, was said clearly and straightforwardly. Everyone could feel the emotions in these 3 words. Not only was there grievance, but there was also the loss after the deep love and persistence. She lowered her head, but out of the corner of her eyes, she kept looking at Li Tianlan and Dongqing Rushi's intertwined arms. The light in Wang Yuedong's big eyes dimmed. Li Tianlan suddenly felt that his arm was a little hot. He subconsciously pulled his arm out of Dongqing Rushi's hand. This action was abrupt and stiff. Dongqing Rushi froze for a moment and looked at Li Tianlan with her clear eyes. Her confused expression made one's heart ache. It seemed that she couldn't react at all. She still held Li Tianlan's arm. But Li Tianlan had already pulled his arm out. Dongqing Rushi blinked. She seemed to want to say something, but in the end, she just put down her hands silently. Wang Yuetong still kept her head down. Li Tianlan himself was also stunned. He looked at Wang Yuetong, who lowered her head, and then at Dongqing Rushi, who was a little confused. On their snow-white wrists, both of them wore the same exquisite lady's wristwatch. The only difference was the name engraved on the watch hand. At this moment, Li Tianlan suddenly hated himself very much. For the first time, he realized how indecisive he was when it came to relationships. He saw clearly the future of himself and the Wang family of Beihai, but he couldn't give up Wang Yuetong. He didn't want to owe the Dongqing clan too much, but he was reluctant to leave Dongqing Rushi. He had Qin Weibai, at least he used to have her, but he had been running away from the Samsara palace. At this moment, what should have been two people's melancholy became three people's pain. Only then did Li Tianlan realize that he was such a jerk in love. His hand moved. "I'm not good," Wang Yuetong repeated. Her voice was a little higher. Although she still kept her head down, she seemed to be a little more energetic. 3 years had passed. Separation is greater than reunion. Wang Yuetong never regretted meeting Li Tianlan, nor did she regret getting to know him. She loved him. However, during the 3 years when he was missing, Wang Yuetong, who had been clenching her teeth and persisting alone, was really tired. She hoped that Li Tianlan could say something. Even if it was just a word, a hug, or even just a touch of her head, any small gesture would make her feel that her persistence was meaningful. More and more people were gathering around. Li Tianlan, Wang Xingxiao, Gu Hanshan, Jiang Shangyu, Song Ci, Dongqing Rushi, Wang Yuetong. This was the true summit meeting of the younger generation. At this moment, the few of them were standing together, which meant that it was likely to be a grudge that would last for an entire generation. The atmosphere gradually became subtle. The storm ravaged the entire city. The neon lights in the distance shone on the surface of the water. The surging river twisted and blurred. The whole city was like an illusion. Only the cruise ship under his feet was incomparably real. Neither wind nor rain could invade it. It was like the only pure land. Dongqing Rushi bit her red lips. Although she was naive, she was not stupid. Standing beside Li Tianlan, she took a step back. No matter whether she felt wronged or resentful, she didn't want to embarrass him on such an occasion. A big, warm hand grasped her little hand. Li Tianlan breathed deeply. His expression gradually became cold and hard, becoming cold and cruel. He could feel the surging vitality in Wang Yuetong. It was hope and expectation, liveliness and longing. These emotions were too beautiful. Beautiful things would be broken. Just like what rose would eventually fall. Any beautiful future with too much fantasy and longing would eventually turn into despair. The Wang family of Beihai wanted to have a lasting legacy and be glorious for generations. Wang Yuetong wanted to stay with him forever. The corners of Li Tianlan's mouth trembled slightly, but he insisted on raising it. His movement was very light, but it seemed that he had used all his strength, so he looked extremely determined. Wang Yuedong's words still echoed in his ears. But he didn't want to respond. He held Dongqing Rushi's hand and looked at Wang Xingxiao. "See you in the maneuver," he said. At this moment, there was only silence left in Li Tianlan. The pupils of Wang Xingxiao and Song Ci completely contracted in an instant. At this moment, there was no emotion in Li Tianlan's eyes. Only life and death. Li Tianlan didn't look at Wang Yuetong. He took Dongqing Rushi and walked to another corner. I miss you very much. I've always missed you. Wang Yuetong's head was getting lower and lower. She didn't look at Li Tianlan's back, but said in a trembling voice. Li Tianlan didn't turn around. His footsteps paused slightly, and then he continued to move forward. This time, he would never look back. Wang Yuetong didn't speak. She stood where she was with her head down. The vitality that had appeared in her was completely gone, and she was completely withered. A crystal tear flowed down from the corner of Wang Yuetong's eye and fell on the deck. Drop after drop, like beads with a broken string. It turned out that the answer to the end was so cruel. It turned out that the fantasy future was so cruel. Wang Yuetong's eyes were blurred in tears. She still remembered that sunny morning 3 years ago, when they first met in the entrance maneuver. She still remembered that stormy night 3 years ago, when Li Tianlan passed his body temperature to her. But her memories, her fantasies, and her perseverance were all in this storm tonight, as he turned around and left. Wang Yuetong stood quietly, covered her mouth with her hand, and trembled all over. Crack. Song Ci stood beside Wang Shengshao and directly crushed the wine glass in her hand. The sharp glass pierced through her hand, leaving wounds one after another. Beads of blood rolled down and merged with the red wine. Wang Shengshao looked at Li Tianlan's back quietly. A sharpness flashed in his eyes. He took a step forward and was about to rush to Li Tianlan. Song Ci calmly pulled his body. She threw away the broken wine glass in her hand, the red wine, and the blood on her hand. In a short time, the wounds on her hand caused by the glass had begun to heal. Song Ci looked at Li Tianlan's back, and a touch of softness and appreciation quietly flashed through her silent eyes. He's right. Song Ci whispered, even though it's cruel. Wang Xingshao took a deep breath. He barely suppressed the anger that had been out of control in his heart and walked stiffly to Wang Yuetong. Wang Yuetong didn't look up, just stood in silence. Let's go. Wang Xingshao said softly, a man like that is not worth it. Wang Yuetong didn't speak. All that flashed through her mind were the pictures of her and Li Tianlan. There were few pictures, but after they were fragmented, they were so complicated that they occupied every corner of her heart. Huading in early summer was still hot and dry even in the storm. The perfunctory young experts used their martial arts strength to evaporate the rain falling from the sky. Although the fire was not obvious, the temperature was rising sharply, as if they were in a furnace. Wang Yuetong felt very cold. This early summer was too cold. A piercing chill enveloped her body. She felt like she was in deep winter, like she was in the polar region. Like she was in an ice cave. Her body was stiff because of the cold, like a statue. The wind and rain outside the cruise ship kept howling. Wang Yuetong's heart kept sinking with those fragmented pictures. It was like falling into the abyss forever. Li Tianlan took Dongqing Rushi to the corner on the top floor. The cruise ship was very big. So the corner was cold and quiet. There was no rain here. The rain evaporated by the heat wave turned into steam and rushed out of the cruise ship, mixing with the rain outside. Colorful halos appeared in front of Li Tianlan one after another. The halos were dazzling. So the large halos began to disappear. The scorching heat in the corner slowly dissipated and retreated. There was still no rain in the corner. Li Tianlan let go of Dongqing Rushi's palm and looked at the prosperous Huading in the storm night. Dongqing Rushi stood beside him obediently, but a small hand was quietly hidden behind her. Li Tianlan noticed her movement. She suddenly came back to her senses. Did I hurt you? He said softly. No. Dongqing Rushi shook her head subconsciously and said a little quickly, it's okay. She was not good at lying. Her big eyes blinked, and the small hand hidden behind her was shaking unnaturally. Are you unhappy? Dongxing Rushi stared into Li Tianlan's eyes and asked, "Is it because of me? Or because of her?" "Neither." Li Tianlan shook his head. He didn't know why. Because of standpoint? Because of fate? Because of choice? Or because of the future? These questions were big, and Li Tianlan couldn't give an answer. He was just unhappy. Dongxing Rushi walked over and gently pulled Li Tianlan's hand. She didn't know what to say, so she could only accompany him in silence. "I'm sorry." Li Tianlan said softly, "Did I make you unhappy, too?" "No." Dongxing Rushi looked at Li Tianlan seriously. Her eyebrows and eyes were curved, and she showed a faint smile. "I'm very happy when I'm with you." Li Tianlan looked at Dongxing Rushi. That elegant face was brimming with joy, pure and genuine. Li Tianlan suddenly took a step forward, held Dongxing Rushi in his arms, and kissed her red lips almost violently. His kiss was wild and rough. Dongxing Rushi opened her eyes wide in shock. The two stared at each other at the closest distance, and they could even see their own reflections in each other's eyes. It was so clear. An intoxicating blush quietly climbed onto Dongxing Rushi's face. She blinked her eyes and closed them gently. She also put her hands around Li Tianlan's neck, and responded to his roughness in a somewhat jerky but extremely gentle way. The banquet had begun in the center of the deck not far away. Jiang Shangyu personally opened the champagne. The air gradually filled with the aroma of barbecue. Wang Yuetong still stood where she was, lonely and desolate. A voice suddenly sounded behind Li Tianlan with a smile. "Yuetong is distracted by you, and junior sister Rushi is also so docile by your side. All the good cabbages have been taken by you. There are luxury suites downstairs. Do you need to arrange them for you?" Dongxing Rushi, who had been completely immersed in it, was shocked. She pushed Li Tianlan's chest with her small hand, and the two suddenly separated. Dongxing Rushi's little face was red. She used to be as beautiful as a fairy, but now she had a kind of soul-stirring beauty. She hid her face in Li Tianlan's arms and held his waist tightly, as if she didn't want to look outside. Li Tianlan looked at Jiang Shangyu, who walked to his side. He didn't call him "Your Highness" this time. But the natural joking tone very casually narrowed the distance between them. Li Tianlan put his arms around Dongxing Rushi, looked at Jiang Shangyu, who almost died in his hands 3 years ago, and said indifferently, "Are you envious?" "Envious, but not jealous." Jiang Shangyu said with a smile, "If it's not mine, I don't want it. If it's mine, no one can take it away." Li Tianlan raised his eyebrows, only feeling that there was a hidden meaning in his words. "What happened just now, although you seem a little ruthless, can still be explained." Jiang Shangyu handed Li Tianlan a cigarette and said meaningfully, "You see, the princess is still standing there and hasn't moved. If you are willing to go over, is it meaningful?" Li Tianlan said calmly, "If I explain it, it will only make her more painful in the future." "Of course it is meaningful." Jiang Shangyu said with a smile, "If you can continue to entangle with her, it will be good for us. Because the Wang family of Beihai will not compromise, and neither will you. This gives us a chance." Li Tianlan glanced at him. "You? Me and Hans Han?" Jiang Shangyu said indifferently. Li Tianlan lit the cigarette that Jiang Shangyu handed over. "It seems that you have a good cooperation. You gave up the leadership of the 3,000 world. Are you willing to submit to Gu Hans Han?" "Not bad." Jiang Shangyu's smile didn't change. He was very shrewd. No matter how he felt inside, he always seemed to have a sincere and unquestionable smile on his face. "Hans Han is much stronger than me. He's willing to help me. I can't say that I'm under him, right? Maybe if I follow him, I can go higher. This is my chance, and also the best choice." "Not necessarily." Li Tianlan shook his head. "The higher you climb, the harder you fall. When you really climb to a height close to the peak, Gu Hans Han personally pushes you down. Have you ever thought about that feeling? Never thought about it. Jiang Shangyu said with a calm smile, I will be his most important helper. Who will be willing to cut off his own arm? What if there is a reason to do so? Li Tianlan sneered. For example, he knows that you have been hiding the Heavenly King heart. What do you think he will choose? Jiang Shangyu suddenly shook, and the cigarette in his hand burned into ashes in an instant. He raised his head hard and looked at Li Tianlan in disbelief. Until this moment, he really felt shock and fear. Heavenly King heart. This was his biggest secret. Only he and his father, Jiang Shan, knew it. How did Li Tianlan know about this? Jiang Shangyu opened his mouth, and a trace of cold killing intent suddenly flashed in his eyes. Li Tianlan looked at him quietly. Even Dongqing Rushi raised her head from Li Tianlan's arms and looked at Jiang Shangyu in surprise. Don't do it. Li Tianlan said slowly, this is stupid, and you are no match for me now. Jiang Shangyu looked at Dongqing Rushi and then at Li Tianlan. His eyes kept wandering, and the killing intent was getting stronger and stronger. Rushi can be trusted. She will keep your secret. Li Tianlan said. Dongqing Rushi suddenly smiled and rubbed her head against his chest. Li Tianlan's eyes were quiet and deep. Dongqing Rushi could indeed be trusted. But he knew that Dongqing Yueshan was also watching all this now. Jiang Shangyu had the Heavenly King heart. If this thing was used properly, it could bring Li Tianlan unimaginable benefits. But compared with these benefits, he paid more attention to Dongqing Yueshan. If he really married Dongqing Rushi, what would Dongqing Yueshan's attitude be? At this moment, Li Tianlan suddenly thought of a mysterious person. The heavenly son that existed but few people knew. Dongqing Huangtu. Li Tianlan knew the cause of Dongqing Huangtu's death. Qin Weibai told him that Dongqing Huangtu was finally killed by his beloved woman when he was besieged. If he married Dongqing Rushi, one day in the future, would Dongqing Yueshan stab herself in the chest like that woman? And the woman who killed Dongqing Huangtu that year, was it also because of the betrayal between different personalities? He had to test Dongqing Yueshan's true attitude. If the Lu family of Huading was the first bait, then the secret that Jiang Shangyu had the Heavenly King heart was the second bait. Jiang Shangyu was still looking at Li Tianlan. Li Tianlan said that Dongqing Rushi could keep a secret, which meant that Li Tianlan could also keep a secret. What do you want? Jiang Shangyu narrowed his eyes and said faintly. His heart quickly calmed down. Cooperation. Li Tianlan smiled. At least our positions are not in conflict now. Don't deny it. You can't sincerely surrender to Gu Hanshan, and I also want to destroy Kunlun City. Simply from this matter, you are a pawn in my hand, and I can also be a pawn in your hand. No one will suffer. He paused for a moment, then continued, and you came here tonight to talk to me about this, right? Jiang Shangyu opened his mouth and said with a bitter smile, but I didn't expect it to be so smooth. At this moment, he suddenly felt relieved. The secret of the Heavenly King heart was indeed enough to doom him eternally. But in Li Tianlan's eyes, he must have more important value. That was the basis of cooperation. And when Li Tianlan felt that he had no value, Jiang Shangyu was confident that he would no longer be afraid of Kunlun City and Li Tianlan. I like to be honest. Li Tianlan said blandly, and it's good for both of us. Okay. Jiang Shangyu smiled. If you can survive the final maneuver, I will cooperate with you. We can slowly discuss the details at that time. Tonight is not suitable. Are you questioning my strength? Li Tianlan's voice was a little strange. You are very strong now. I've seen your fighting videos. If I'm not wrong, your body is very flawed now. Jiang Shangyu said calmly, your martial arts have reached the extreme, even far beyond your physical strength. Your body is very tight when you fight, which is enough to explain a lot. According to my estimation, in terms of pure destructive power, you can even surpass Wang Xingxiao, but your physical strength is not as good as any of us. Not to mention Wang Xingxiao, even if Song Si gives you a full blow, as long as she hits you, she can seriously injure you or even kill you. Li Tianlan looked at Zhang Shangyu and said thoughtfully, but I don't think she can hit me. You can't not make mistakes. And even if you don't make mistakes, what if you are besieged? Zhang Shangyu shook his head. He wanted to continue to say something, but suddenly found that the cruise ship was quiet. Zhang Shangyu turned around subconsciously, and his face suddenly became a little strange. In his sight, Wang Yuetong, who had been standing in the same place, moved. She saw Li Tianlan, and then without hesitation, she walked over step by step. Her footsteps were very light. But she was so brave. At this moment, Wang Yuetong had no dignity or pride, but she had an unprecedented courage and firmness. She could still move forward after being treated so coldly. This was courage in itself. For a moment, everyone was a little touched, including Li Tianlan. Wang Yuetong walked directly to Li Tianlan. Her eyes were red and swollen, but they were extremely firm. Dongqing Rushi hesitated, took the initiative to walk away from Li Tianlan's arms, and took 2 steps to the side. Li Tianlan took a deep breath. He looked at Wang Yuetong, his eyes calm and a little cold. Wang Yuetong came over, hesitated, and finally reached out and grabbed Li Tianlan's arm. Chapter 310. Most people were looking at Wang Yuetong, and a few people were still paying attention to Wang Xingxiao. No one knew how powerful the Wang family of Beihai was. This behemoth that had been passed down for hundreds of years had always stood at the peak of Zhongzhou State and the peak of the Dark World. This was a great family. Wang family of Beihai. This was something to be proud of. These 4 words represented dignity, honor, glory, and unfathomable. Wherever the people of the Wang family of Beihai went, they seemed to be the focus of attention. It was still the case. But the little princess, who could represent part of the glory of the Wang family of Beihai, lost her pride at this time. It was as if she had really let go of everything. Pride, face, and identity were all drifting away with the wind and rain. That was why her figure was so delicate, so petty. Being humble is also a kind of courage. His bravery moved people. Everyone watching this scene had a complicated look in their eyes. Wang Xingxiao suddenly felt very distressed. Perhaps he was a little embarrassed, but more than that, he felt heartache. After all, this lowly and careful figure was his biological sister. Wang Xingxiao puts down his glass. Under countless gazes, he instinctively took a step forward. Zhang Shangyu, who was sitting next to Li Tianlan but was observing the whole scene, had a flash of light in his eyes. Have you thought it through? Song Si asked softly behind Wang Xingxiao. She was also looking at Wang Yuetong, and her eyes trembled as Wang Yuetong walked. He shouldn't do this to my sister. Wang Xingxiao turned around and looked at Song Si with a serious expression. That was the seriousness of not hesitating to fight. Then how should he treat Yuetong? Song Si asked straightforwardly. The question was simple. But it stunned Wang Xingxiao. Li Tianlan was very sober. Therefore, he cut off his past with Wang Yuetong in an extremely cruel and even cold-blooded way. Because this is the best way. It was also in the interest of the Wang family of Beihai. Wang Xingxiao could understand what he did. From his point of view, Li Tianlan's decisiveness was even more admirable than his indecisiveness. But looking at the scene in front of him, he somehow felt a little suffocated in his heart. Bastard. Wang Xingxiao gritted his teeth and said softly. Song Si smiled and gave Wang Yuetong a deep look. She came over and held Wang Xingxiao's hand. No matter what Li Tianlan did, he was a bastard. No one was wrong except for the fact that they shouldn't have met that spring 3 years ago. Let's go there. People from the Blizzard have asked me to meet them. They really want to be a member of your team. Let's not worry about Yuetong for now. Li Tianlan let Wang Yuetong hold his hand. His hands were cold. It was as if his heart, which had hardened, was only left with coldness. "Let's talk." Wang Yuetong spoke again. With short hair and a long dress, she looked clean and delicate. There was a trace of pleading in her watery eyes. Li Tianlan's face was cold. He pulled back his hand and shook his head. "I still have something to do." Wang Yuetong bit her lips, and her face grew paler. She held Li Tianlan's hand tightly and lowered her head. She did not speak or let go, but kept pulling Li Tianlan's arm hard, as if she wanted to pull him to another position in silence. Li Tianlan was in a trance. Wang Yuetong's little trick, which was similar to cheating, showed the tenderness of a girl. The scene in front of him seemed to be familiar. Li Tianlan's body did not move. He was as steady as a rock. It was a silent contest. It was as cold as a knife. It cut a piece of affection into pieces and dripped with blood. "I'll go over there and have a look." Dongxing Rushi suddenly said, "I'll go back by myself later." Li Tianlan glanced at her and narrowed his eyes. Dongxing Rushi's eyes were rational and cold, with a clear hint of mockery in them. She was Dongxing Yueshan. Li Tianlan suddenly felt a little melancholy. He shook his head and said indifferently, "It's up to you." Dongxing Yueshan nodded and turned to look at Wang Yuetong. Wang Yuetong did not look at him, but held Li Tianlan's hand hard. Her beautiful little face was flushed. At first, she felt extremely wronged and resentful, but she still persisted with the courage of not giving up even if her head was bleeding. Bravery was a kind of power. It deserved respect. Dongxing Yueshan sighed softly and turned to leave. Wang Yuetong quietly let go. She looked at Jiang Shangyu. "Go away," Wang Yuetong suddenly said. Jiang Shangyu was a little stunned. He did not want to go away. He had not told Li Tianlan a lot of things, but Jiang Shangyu shrugged, stood up with a wry smile, and left the corner. He walked for a distance, then turned around and looked back. In the dark and cold corner, Wang Yuetong still stood there, holding Li Tianlan's hand. Her long skirt gently rose on the deck, looking pitiful. The corner of Jiang Shangyu's mouth twitched. His father, Jiang Shan, personally contacted the Wang family of Beihai in order to let him marry Wang Yuetong. Jiang Shangyu had no objection. But unfortunately, Wang Yuetong still insisted when the Wang family of Beihai agreed or at least acquiesced. Jiang Shangyu had pursued her for more than a year. In his eyes, Wang Yuetong seemed to always be indifferent, reserved, polite, but with indifference that kept people 1,000 miles away, beautiful and noble. But now, the woman he wanted to marry stood in front of Li Tianlan pitifully and let go of everything just to talk to him. Jiang Shangyu did not fall in love with Wang Yuetong. But he felt a little uncomfortable in his heart for no reason. He showed a very sincere smile, but kept asking himself a question in his heart. Why? If you have something to say it here. Li Tianlan looked at Wang Yuetong, who was still stubborn and silent, and took the initiative to speak. Wang Yuetong's body stiffened, and she gradually relaxed the strength in her hand. "You." Wang Yuetong hesitated and whispered, "Senior brother, don't you want me anymore?" Li Tianlan looked at Wang Yuetong quietly. His tone was calm and without any emotion. "I can't afford it." He looked at the hand held by Wang Yuetong, sighed softly, and said calmly, "Let go." "Does it make sense to do this?" Wang Yuetong did not cry. She just held Li Tianlan's hand tightly and kept shaking her head. Why? Why? Li Tianlan had a lot of explanations. Perhaps, as Jiang Shangyu said, he could explain this kind of thing. But what was the point? Explanation and decision were two completely different things. Li Tianlan's face twisted. At this moment, every picture he had with Wang Yuetong flashed in his mind. He had thought the memory was vague, but now he found it so clear. But what was the point? He kept exerting force in his palm, trying to pull his hand back, and his tone became completely cold. "There is no reason. I don't like you. It's as simple as that." Yuetong, don't forget your identity. You are the little princess of the Wang family of Beihai. You are so noble. What you do now will only make me feel that you are cheap, and it won't change anything. Wang Yuetong's delicate body suddenly shook. In an instant, her face was bloodless, and her eyes were completely dim. She looked at Li Tianlan. Li Tianlan wanted to dodge, but he finally hardened his heart and looked at her. You think I'm cheap? Wang Yuetong's voice trembled a little. Yes. Li Tianlan said forcefully. Why are you so cruel? Wang Yuetong looked at Li Tianlan with empty eyes and murmured. Because you are cheap. Li Tianlan tried his best to keep his voice from trembling. Go. I think we'd better not see each other in the future. The separation under such circumstances. If they met again, they could only be enemies. Enemies of life and death. Li Tianlan seemed to have a knife in his heart. The sharp knife kept cutting in the depths of his heart, cutting his feelings into pieces. It was so painful, but so hearty. Enemies. That was the most correct relationship between him and Wang Yuetong. Hatred could bury all the pain. Li Tianlan suddenly wanted to laugh. He kept his mouth shut and looked at the river attacked by the heavy rain in the night, with crazy eyes. Wang Yuetong finally let go of his hand. At that moment, Li Tianlan clenched his fists tightly. It directly pierced his palm, and blood dripped. Is this what you want? Wang Yuetong asked calmly. She was no longer crying or trembling. It seemed that in a very short time, she had put away all her weakness. Yes. Li Tianlan said lightly. I waited for you for 3 years. Wang Yuetong laughed at herself. My father always wanted me to marry someone else. He introduced me to a lot of people, including young people in the Wang family of Beihai and people outside Beihai province. She looked at Li Tianlan, and the emotion in her eyes was so strong. It was almost paranoid love, but also like completely crazy hatred. That kind of emotion flashed in her eyes. The boundary was extremely blurred. Do you know what I said when my father introduced me to a boyfriend for the first time? Wang Yuetong looked at Li Tianlan and asked. Li Tianlan just looked at the Huangpu River in the night, lost in thought, and said nothing. I said, I have eaten at your place, so I can't say that I love you to other men, and I can't say that I want to. I want to be shameless. Wang Yuetong said softly. She smiled beautifully and absent-mindedly. At that time, I always thought that you were my man, so I would persist. No matter what happened, I thought you would persist. Her voice gradually deepened, and the adoration in her eyes gradually deepened, turning into the most negative hatred. But I didn't expect that I would get such a result after 3 years of persistence. Li Tianlan, are you fair to me by being so cruel? At least, you waited for the result. Li Tianlan's voice was cold. But this is not the result I want. Wang Yuetong said coldly, this is what you want. Li Tianlan smiled, a little self-deprecating, but he did not speak. This was not the result they wanted. But this was the best result. Li Tianlan had to bear the Li family's past. If he could not let go of the Li family's responsibility, he could not give Wang Yuetong the future she wanted. Wang Yuetong was the little princess of the Wang family of Beihai. Ever since she was young, she had lived a life of luxury and was doted on by everyone. She had no responsibilities, no pressure. She was high and mighty. She was reserved and proud. She already had too much, so she was qualified to dream about her future and her life. Her life was too sweet and perfect. But life was bitter. Li Tianlan's life was even more bitter. His future was blood and bones, conspiracies and betrayals, wars and compromises, glory and death, hatred and resentment. On the opposite side of his future, the Wang family of Beihai might be the most important role. The future had been determined. What was the point of being entangled today? Li Tianlan could not say that it was all for Wang Yuetong's good. He was too ashamed to say that he was just sure that tonight's result was the best. Because if one day they were really enemies in the future, at least they would not have more pain and fetters. He stood up. Wang Yuetong subconsciously reached out her hand and grabbed him again. "Walk with me," Wang Yuetong said suddenly. Her voice was completely calm. "No matter what happens in the future, at least tonight, I want to give myself an explanation." She paused. But the sound of a broken heart rang clearly in her ears. "After tonight, we are enemies." Li Tianlan was silent for a while and said in a hoarse voice, "Okay. I want to get out of here." Wang Yuetong pointed to the river. Li Tianlan said yes, held Wang Yuetong in his arms, and directly rushed into the sky. Tonight's banquet meant nothing to him. It was the same for Wang Yuetong. Everyone saw the two people rushing into the sky without saying goodbye. Jiang Shangyu's eyes flickered for a while, but he said nothing in the end. And in another corner, Dongxing Yueshan stood alone in silence, looking at the direction where Li Tianlan left with a complicated look in her eyes. She could feel everything tonight. She could also know Li Tianlan's indifference to Wang Yuetong. Because the Li family and the Wang family of Beihai were irreconcilable. Dongxing Yueshan suddenly heard a sentence. That was Li Tianlan's evaluation of the Dongxing clan. "You deserve a good ending." Dongxing Yueshan looked at the night sky in a trance, and her mind seemed to be completely lost. The heavy rain by the river receded. Li Tianlan's figure landed. The curtain of rain quietly disappeared, turning into a pure land. He let go of Wang Yuetong in his arms. Wang Yuetong took the initiative to hold his arm very tightly. Li Tianlan walked forward in silence. The two snuggled together, like a couple in love. But at the end of the road, there was parting. "I know you don't want me to be stuck between you and the family," Wang Yuetong whispered. "Part of the reason," Li Tianlan said slowly, "but I don't want to be stuck between you and the Wang family of Beihai. Since it's not suitable, don't force it." This was an unavoidable problem. At least for now, neither Li Tianlan nor Wang Yuetong was qualified to solve the problem. "I dare to face it," Wang Yuetong said blandly, "but you dare not." Her tone was a little mocking, but her arm around Li Tianlan was getting tighter and tighter. "I didn't expect that the man I fell in love with would be a coward." Li Tianlan was silent for a while, and then said self-mockingly, "Your taste is really bad." Wang Yuetong suddenly stopped. She pulled Li Tianlan and forced him to stand in front of her. "You really don't want me?" she asked softly. Li Tianlan looked at her quietly and said blandly, "We're over." "Why is it over? Why are you doing this to me?" "Bastard. I don't want it to end." "Why do you want it to end?" "I don't agree. I don't agree." Wang Yuetong directly broke out. She beat Li Tianlan's body crazily and cried bitterly. Finally, she rushed up and bit Li Tianlan's shoulder. Li Tianlan didn't move or fight back. He just held her in silence and let her vent her emotions. After tonight, all the feelings would disappear. Only hatred would be left. Wang Yuetong cried for a long time before she calmed down. "From tomorrow on, we're enemies." She held Li Tianlan and whispered, "If you can't kill me, sooner or later, I'll kill you with my own hands." "Li Tianlan, I hate you." Li Tianlan gently patted her on the back. "Okay. Kiss me again." Wang Yuetong raised her head in Li Tianlan's arms. She closed her eyes and whispered, "From now on, we don't owe each other anything." Li Tianlan looked at her quietly. Wang Yuetong was very close to him, but so far away. He suddenly lowered his head and kissed her. Wang Yuetong put her arms around Li Tianlan's neck. Her movements were very serious, very jerky, and very wild. It was very fragrant and gentle, but with an almost desperate coldness. The heavy rain on the horizon gradually subsided. It was a long, long time. The two separated in silence. Wang Yuetong's body trembled slightly, and her cheeks were fiery red. She looked at Li Tianlan. The man she really fell in love with. Give up. Easier said than done. She still wanted to try again, for the last time, even if it was a greater humiliation. So she clung to Li Tianlan tightly and said the most shameless words for the first time in her life. Her voice was very low and light, like the rainstorm that gradually stopped, fresh and misty. It's already very wet. In an instant, all the suppressed emotions of Li Tianlan completely collapsed. He suddenly growled and held Wang Yuetong in his arms. Li Tianlan's body leaned against a car. He tore open the locked door in a frenzy and got directly into the car. A leather shoe was thrown directly out of the car. There was an exclamation in the car whose door was destroyed. Wang Yuetong gently held Li Tianlan. She was crying. But her smile was like a blooming flower, beautiful and unparalleled. At this moment, she finally confirmed her destiny. She got the man who owned her. It hurt. But she was very happy. Chapter 311. The rain stopped. The night gradually receded, and there was a glimmer of light on the horizon. The morning sun leaped from the east to the sky, and the bright light shone on every corner of the city. After the rain, Huading became cold because of the moisture, and then was replaced by noise. The most prosperous city in Zhongzhou state began to recover, and gradually became noisy and bustling. The sun shone through the dark film inside the car. Li Tianlan and Wang Yuetong, who had fought almost all night, were sleeping soundly in each other's arms. The sun shone into the car, making it hazy. The scene inside the car was charming and ambiguous, and the scenery was boundless. The sun spread inside the car. The dry and somewhat hot light shone on Li Tianlan's face through the film. He frowned, struggled for a while, and finally opened his eyes. His eyes looked very sober, but deep in his eyes, they were all blank for a moment. The roof. The spacious and comfortable seat. The skylight was as bright as the starry sky. Everything in the car began to come into view. A warm and delicate body clung to him, as if afraid that he would disappear, and her hands were firmly around his waist. His consciousness seemed to be gradually waking up. Li Tianlan looked down at Wang Yuetong in his arms. The little princess of the Wang family of Beihai still had tears on her face, but her beautiful little face was indescribably rosy and delicate. The flowers were not withering. Even in her sleep, Li Tianlan could still feel her peace and happiness. Li Tianlan was a little tired and confused. He sat up carefully, picked up the somewhat wrinkled coat, and covered Wang Yuetong. After a long while, he sighed softly. He was not very comfortable. But after a confused and crazy night, the restless desire that had been piling up in his heart for 3 years gradually subsided, and the refreshment in his heart completely replaced the physical discomfort. Li Tianlan raised his head and looked out of the window. Outside the window, Huading was prosperous and bright. The sun was reflected on the Huangpu River, and the river was shining. The cruise ship was moving on the river, busy and quiet. Li Tianlan looked around. On the left side of the car were skyscrapers rising from the ground. Pedestrians hurried in and out of the buildings, which seemed to drive the rhythm of the whole city. In front of the revolving door of a silver building facing the car, a quiet girl was standing there with a folder in her arms, as if waiting for someone. The girl was dressed in a formal white-collar outfit. She was quiet and well-behaved, very attractive. Li Tianlan thought the girl looked familiar, but he couldn't remember who she was or where he had seen her. He subconsciously moved his body. As a result, Wang Yuetong, who was still asleep, also moved. She leaned over like a kitten and wrapped her arms around one of his legs. The insides of their legs were still stained with some blood. It was the purest dark red. Li Tianlan finally came to his senses. He reached out and pinched Wang Yuetong's face. Wang Yuetong's skin was so delicate that he couldn't bear to part with it. So he pinched it again and whispered, "It's dawn. Get up." "No." Wang Yuetong slapped Li Tianlan's palm away in a daze and pouted subconsciously. "If we don't get up, we'll be surrounded. We're on the street now. Li Tianlan laughed. Last night's indifference and cruelty seemed to be gone with the storm, and his voice was very gentle. At such a close distance, he could clearly feel Wang Yuedong's body temperature. The warm touch kept repeating a fact. The little princess in front of him had changed from a girl to a woman. And she was a woman who completely belonged to him. She belonged to him. Wang Yuedong's eyelashes trembled slightly, and her charming eyes opened reluctantly. In the quiet carriage, the two looked at each other in silence. Wang Yuedong's eyes became sober, then became aggrieved, and finally turned into bitterness. "Senior brother," she called softly. "Get up first. I'll take you to eat something." Li Tianlan said softly. Wang Yuedong's face turned red. She moved her slender legs and suddenly snorted. Her ruddy face instantly turned pale. Li Tianlan subconsciously wanted to ask, but then he seemed to realize something and turned his head away awkwardly. "It hurts." "You pervert, are you trying to kill me?" Wang Yuetong, who was pale, pursed her lips and hammered Li Tianlan. Li Tianlan was even more embarrassed. Last night's lively night was still vivid in his mind. Li Tianlan's madness surprised himself. He was like a beast tearing the prey under him unscrupulously. Wang Yuetong went from obedience to resistance, and then to resistance, but Li Tianlan's rude attitude did not change at all. He subconsciously looked at Wang Yuetong. Wang Yuetong's snow-white skin already had small bruises. Li Tianlan was a little embarrassed. After a long silence, he forced out a sentence, "It won't be like this in the future." "In the future?" A smile gradually appeared on Wang Yuetong's pale face. Her delicate eyebrows and small nose wrinkled, and she said fiercely, "There is no future. We are enemies in the future." She approached Li Tianlan with a snort and said lazily, "I'll kill you sooner or later. In the future, you will be my woman." Li Tianlan said. His voice was calm and firm, as if he was making a declaration after careful consideration. Wang Yuetong slightly raised her eyebrows, and suddenly there was a kind of indescribable charm and naivety in her. This was a soul-stirring charm that only belonged to Li Tianlan. Li Tianlan gently held her in his arms. Wang Yuetong's body stiffened, and then she gently leaned on Li Tianlan, muttering to herself, "Tianlan, don't you think you are too domineering? When you don't want me, it's useless for me to beg you. Now you want me, but it's also useless for me to say anything. Why? It's my fault." Li Tianlan held her and gently kissed her ear. "Then you apologize to me." Wang Yuetong looked proud. "I'm sorry." Li Tianlan's attitude was extremely sincere. Wang Yuetong giggled and moved her body, immediately affecting the most tender part. She gently took a breath and rolled her eyes at Li Tianlan. Li Tianlan smiled gently and calmly. Wang Yuetong buried her small head in Li Tianlan's neck, rubbed her forehead against his chin, and whispered, "I really don't want to talk to you. I've waited for you for 3 years, and you treat me like this. Last night, I said those shameless words. I've decided that if you still refuse me last night, I would definitely kill you, and then I would die with you." Li Tianlan stroked her short hair and didn't say anything. "Don't call me cheap in the future." "I don't like it." Wang Yuetong whispered. "I won't." "Well, you have to spoil me in the future, and you must be good to me." "Okay." Okay. Li Tianlan quietly listened to Wang Yuetong chattering in his arms. It seemed that in one night, the old Wang Yuetong had come back. The former charm appeared completely on her. Her eyebrows and eyes were curved, and her voice was getting more and more cheerful. Li Tianlan had stopped thinking about what would happen to the Wang family of Beihai. The grievances between him and the Wang family of Beihai might be irreconcilable, but at the very least, Wang Yuetong should not bear them. Li Tianlan didn't know what would happen to him and the Wang family of Beihai in the future. But in the future, as long as Wang Yuetong didn't take the initiative to let go of his hand, he would continue to insist. His decision might be wrong. But wrong was wrong. Wang Yuetong, whose physical strength had been completely exhausted in last night's battle, began to struggle after a while. She kissed Li Tianlan on the face and said in a daze, "Tianlan, I'm so sleepy. Let's go get a room and let me sleep for a while." As she spoke, her hand began to fumble on the seat, and she muttered to herself, "Where is the key?" "Is it in?" Li Tianlan said casually, but halfway through, he suddenly felt that something was wrong. Wang Yuetong also realized something. The two of them looked at each other and found that this was not their car at all. They didn't drive at all. This is, Wang Yuetong finally recovered from her trance, resentment, and joy. She felt that the car she was in was extremely spacious and luxurious. She looked at the car carefully and even touched the seat under her. Her face suddenly changed. Land Palace? Wang Yuetong's voice was full of disbelief. "What is it?" Li Tianlan said casually, "This car doesn't seem to be ours. I broke the door. Why don't we wait for the owner to come and buy one for him?" Wang Yuetong's voice was strange and complicated. She stared at the car blankly and said with a sad face, "Tianlan, we can't afford it." She was telling the truth. This Rolls-Royce, known as the Land Palace, was a custom-made model and the only one in the world. They couldn't afford to pay for the shell, not to mention the purely handmade interior. The Land Palace was known as the safest car in the world. Its body was not all aluminum, but made of an extremely rare alloy. The market price of this alloy was dozens of times higher than gold, and it was priceless. Li Tianlan couldn't afford to pay for the door, which weighed more than 100 kilograms, not to mention the whole car. As for Wang Yuetong, who had almost fallen out with her family in recent years, she had no extra pocket money. The most important thing was, Wang Yuetong recognized this unique Rolls-Royce in the world, and naturally knew who the owner was. She had been in this car before. "Tianlan." Wang Yuetong poked Li Tianlan's leg with her small hand and whispered, "Let's run. Don't let the owner find us." "Here." She looked directly out of the window as she spoke, trying to confirm where they were. But as soon as she looked out, she suddenly froze. Outside the window, the quiet girl who had been standing in front of the silver building had come over with a tall and thin middle-aged man. She was jumping up and down, very lively. Li Tianlan was also looking at the girl. The more he looked, the more familiar he felt. "It's over," Wang Yuetong murmured to herself. The two, who looked like father and daughter, walked into the Rolls-Royce, known as the Land Palace, talking and laughing. The girl took out the key and opened the door. Bang! In the dull sound, the door, which was strong enough to resist the bombardment of missiles, was suddenly separated from the body and fell to the ground. The sound was dull. Li Tianlan reacted quickly and covered Wang Yuetong's body with his coat and Wang Yuetong's ragged skirt in an instant. Wang Yuetong was already stunned. At the same time, the father and daughter outside the car were also stunned. The girl looked at the car door that fell to the ground in disbelief and did not come to her senses for a long time. Li Tianlan braced himself and looked at the familiar girl. He took the initiative to say, "We are willing to compensate." The girl hesitated for a long time and finally saw Li Tianlan, who was almost naked, and Wang Yuetong, who was covered by clothes in the car. Her eyes suddenly widened. "Yuetong? Li Tianlan?" The girl's little mouth opened wide, and she looked like she had seen a ghost in the daytime. "Xinyan, please, don't make noise." Wang Yuetong shrank behind the clothes and whispered with shame. "Xinyan," Li Tianlan suddenly came to his senses. Han Xinyan. He finally remembered who the girl was. "What's going on?" The middle-aged man standing behind Han Xinyan asked. Han Xinyan stammered, "Dad, it's Yuetong and Li Tianlan inside." "Ah, they are my friends." "It's them, Li Tianlan," the middle-aged man murmured, "Li Tianlan from East Emperor Palace?" He took 2 steps forward. From this angle, He could not see Wang Yuetong behind Li Tianlan, but it was enough to confirm Li Tianlan's identity. A strange smile flashed in the middle-aged man's eyes. He looked at Li Tianlan and said meaningfully, "Young man, I think we can have a good talk." "Sure." Li Tianlan nodded. "But I need 2 sets of clothes." Han Xinyan shook her head subconsciously and curled her lips. "It's okay to have car sex, but you even want to smash other people's cars? You've gone too far." Chapter 312. The Flourishing Age building might not be the tallest building in Huading, but it was definitely the most imposing building in the entire Huading. The Flourishing Age building was 470 meters high. In terms of height, it was second only to the Huading Center building and the World Financial Center, even higher than the Oriental Pearl Tower. The building was designed by several famous designers at home and abroad. It was shaped like an irregular cube, but this irregular cube towered into the sky, looking magnificent and heavy, simply magnificent. This was the headquarters of the Flourishing Age Financial Group. The internationally famous or notorious Flourishing Age Fund was set up here. Li Tianlan, who had changed his clothes, sat quietly in the chairman's office on the top floor of the building. He looked at the middle-aged man in front of him who was on the phone with a solemn face. He was speaking English. Li Tianlan didn't understand a word. He had completely calmed down inside. The embarrassment had gradually disappeared, leaving only emotion. He didn't know whether he should feel good luck or bad luck. He tortured himself and Wang Yuetong at the same time. When their passion was completely out of control, he just opened the door of a car and destroyed the Han family's car. That was not all. The most painful thing was that after the battle, they didn't rush to leave the scene, so they were simply blocked in the car. Li Tianlan was not familiar with Han Xinyan. They only met once, and it was 3 years ago. But Han Xinyan seemed to have a good relationship with Wang Yuetong. The little princess of the Wang family of Beihai had gone to the opposite hotel to take a bath and rest with the help of Han Xinyan. Li Tianlan stayed and was taken to the top floor of the Flourishing Age building. Because Han Xinyan's father wanted to talk to him. Li Tianlan carefully observed the middle-aged man on the phone. He was tall and thin. Even though he was about to pass the middle age of his life, his face was still handsome. The most impressive thing about him was his aura. He was calm, strong, and sharp. That was a kind of unfathomable depth. The moment Li Tianlan saw him, he seemed to see countless conspiracies, cunning, blood, and darkness. This was Han Donglu. He was the largest financial giant in Zhongzhou State, the patriarch of the largest neutral wealthy family in Zhongzhou State, an internationally famous philanthropist, and the most hated speculator. A person who could control trillions of money and indirectly influence the flow of more than 10 trillion or even more wealth. It was a giant. Although Li Tianlan was surprised to find that Han Donglu didn't seem to know martial arts at all, it didn't stop him from becoming a big shot who stood at the top of Zhongzhou State and even the whole world. Even in Zhongzhou State where there were many wealthy families, the rise of the Han family was a miracle among miracles. The Han family was not a rich and powerful family with a long history. Instead, it was a rising star that had risen in the past 20 years. This was the most frightening part. At that time, Han Donglu was just a young man with a few million startup capital and a dream. Over the past 20 years, he had participated in every turbulence in the international financial market, and he had staked everything on one throw each time. In that kind of sharp judgment similar to a prophet, the scale of the Flourishing Age Fund continued to expand. Japanese yen market, Thai baht market, Snow Country ruble, Star Country USD, British pound, euro, the financial crisis that gave all the countries a headache became a feast for the Flourishing Age Fund. Every time a financial crisis broke out, the scale of the Flourishing Age Fund would expand dozens or even hundreds of times. Today's Flourishing Age Fund no longer needed to wait for opportunities as it did in the beginning. As long as this financial monster wagged its tail, the whole of Southeast Asia and even the rest of the world would be plunged into a financial storm. This was the power that could push history and even change history. And such power was held in the hands of the middle-aged man in front of Li Tianlan at this time. Li Tianlan's heart was solemn and even a little awestruck. In front of the wide French window, Han Donglu finally hung up the phone. He put away the phone, walked to the sofa in the reception area and sat down. He smiled and said, "A friend's scientific research project has encountered difficulties. She hopes that I can use the channel of the Flourishing Age Fund to introduce some technology." Li Tianlan nodded. After a moment of silence, he said calmly, "Mr. Han, I'm sorry about what happened in the morning." Li Tianlan was about to bite the bullet and say that he planned to compensate, but Han Donglu had already waved his hand first and said with a smile, "Young people, it's normal to be a little passionate occasionally. It's understandable." He looked at Li Tianlan, and there seemed to be wind and clouds in his deep eyes. "But I'm curious. How did you open the car door at that time?" Li Tianlan was silent for a moment and said indifferently, "I just opened it like that." A strange light flashed in Han Donglu's eyes, and then he chuckled. His laughter was almost bewitching and infectious, clear and generous. "Many people know that my personal strength is not outstanding, so I attach great importance to my safety." Han Donglu said flatly, "So I have a lot of bodyguards, and that car was specially made by me. The material of the car is a special alloy codenamed Raman. The car door doesn't seem to change, but there are 6 locks working at the same time inside." His smile grew wider and wider. "You know what? That car door alone is worth 8 figures. I'm talking about US dollars. Of course, the price is not the point. The point is that ordinary people can't open that car door. I know you have wind and thunder veins, but I can tell you for sure that if it weren't for you last night, Wang Xingxiao from the Wang family of Beihai wouldn't have been able to open the car door either. So, young man, can you tell me how you did it?" Li Tianlan's eyes turned cold, and he said calmly and blandly, "Maybe Mr. Han's car door is broken, so I happened to open it." "That's a good reason." Han Donglu nodded. "It sounds true. I'm sorry." Li Tianlan's voice was calm. "It doesn't matter." Han Donglu shook his head. "It's just a door. It's not a big deal to change a car." "Young. Well, Tianlan, in fact, I've noticed you for a long time. You're the successor of the Li family, the young governor of Sai City, the man of the goddess boss Qin. You have an engagement with the Dongqing clan and are about to get the full support of the Dongqing clan. You're entangled with Wang Yuetong, but you're regarded as a thorn in the flesh by the Wang family of Beihai and Kunlun City. You're a very interesting person. In my eyes, your future is full of opportunities and risks. Maybe you don't know, but when you first entered the Sky Academy, I wanted to talk to you." He took out a cigar and lit it. He sighed with some regret. "Unfortunately, I missed the best time." "What's the best time, Boss Han?" Li Tianlan asked seriously. Both his sitting posture and expression were extremely solemn. For a giant like Han Donglu, even if he was really an ordinary person in terms of force, Li Tianlan would not look down on him at all. "Of course, it's the time when you came back from Heaven Capital 3 years ago. In fact, when it was rumored that your martial arts were completely abolished, I immediately sent someone to East Emperor Palace to contact you, but it turned out that you had already left Huading." Han Donglu said blandly. The smoke of the cigar rose in front of him, and his face became a little blurred behind the smoke. "Why that time?" Li Tianlan raised his eyebrows. "Because that was the most difficult time for you and you needed help the most." Han Donglu said with a smile, "Everyone knows that it's easier to get a real friendship than to add flowers to a brocade." "Friendship. Well. Friendship," Li Tianlan nodded and repeated it. He chuckled and said, "You want to help me just to get the friendship of a nobody like me? First, you're not a nobody. Your potential is the most terrifying among the young generation in Zhongzhou State, at least one of them. Second, my help is not without returns. To be exact, you can understand it as an investment." Han Donglu's voice was calm and clear. "Investment? Why?" Li Tianlan's eyes gradually became sharp. Because I have money. Han Donglu said straightforwardly. This reason was so domineering that Li Tianlan couldn't respond for a while. He looked stunned and even a little dull. I'm not just investing in the East Emperor Palace. I've invested in a lot of people. Take the 6 groups in Zhongzhou State as an example. I've invested nearly 50 billion in the academics. I've invested more than 150 billion in the Southeast Group and the Wang family of Beihai. The Prince Group has invested 80 billion, and there will be more in the near future. The investment amount of the Special Warfare Group is about to exceed that of the academics. The North Group is the least, but it's also close to 30 billion. As for the Giant Group, today's 3 pillars, the Dongqing clan, the Bai family, and the Zhou family, have all cooperated with me. I even funded the construction of the 2 munitions factories of the Dongqing clan. He leaned forward slightly and said meaningfully, but when it comes to the young generation and even the special warfare system, I've invested 3 billion in the 3000 world. Phantom Palace has 3 billion, Jilei Peak has 900 million. Tianlan, your East Emperor Palace is just one of the targets I choose to invest in. I don't care who wins or loses, because the Han family has the money to invest in all of you. No matter who wins, I can get the benefits I want. Li Tianlan's pupils contracted, and he was a little frightened for a moment. The Han family was rich. The numbers that Han Donglu said were enough to prove this. The 6 groups all had investments, which also meant that Han Donglu had a say in the 6 groups. What was a neutral wealthy family? Neutral could mean helping no one. Or it could mean helping everyone. This was the real neutrality. Han Donglu could be said to be everyone's creditor. The Han family had no invincible realm experts and no foundation. But they had money. He was definitely a tycoon who could kill anyone with money. Only when one really stood in front of him could one understand what wealth was. They all accepted your investment? Li Tianlan took a deep breath and asked in a deep voice. They have no reason to refuse, because my requirements are not high. Han Donglu said with a smile, and you are about to graduate. Whether you enter the special warfare system or develop your own forces, you have plenty of places to use money. I give you money to spend. Why do you refuse? So, you want to talk to me today because you want to invest in the East Emperor Palace? Li Tianlan thought for a moment and asked. The East Emperor Palace has great potential, especially after you come back. The Xingshi Group is willing to be your investor. Han Donglu said. What do you want? Li Tianlan thought for a while and then asked slowly. I want 10% of all the interests of the East Emperor Palace in the future. In addition, within the sphere of influence of the East Emperor Palace in the future, the Han family should get the same treatment as the East Emperor Palace. Han Donglu's tone was gentle. Li Tianlan listened quietly, but he didn't hear the follow-up for a long time. He raised his head in surprise. That's it? That's it. Han Donglu shrugged and smiled charmingly. I said, my requirements are not high. It's really not high. Li Tianlan was a little speechless. If this was an investment, the East Emperor Palace, which had no sphere of influence and no interests, could get the Han family's investment without any cost. Han Donglu was really giving money. But if the East Emperor Palace replaced Kunlun City in the future, Han Donglu wanted too much. He invested in the 3000 world, the Phantom Palace, the East Emperor Palace, and Jilei Peak. As long as anyone entered the invincible realm in the future, even if everyone else failed, Han Donglu could recover all the benefits from the successful person. This method was not smart, but it was really inhumane. Because they had a lot of money. Of course, if Han Donglu wanted the force he invested in, such as the East Emperor Palace replacing Kunlun City, then he would definitely invest countless times more. But in any case, in the end, Han Donglu would not lose money. However, Li Tianlan didn't care whether Han Donglu would lose money or not. At this moment, he really began to think about the meaning of this investment for himself. Any force that wanted to rise would need funds, and they would also need these so-called investors. Even when the Wang family of Beihai first rose, there was also someone to help. No matter what the form was, in fact, it was equal to the identity of an investor. The superpowers in the dark world also had the support of countless consortiums behind them. Li Tianlan looked at Han Donglu and said in the same tone, "So, Boss Han, how much investment can the East Emperor Palace get from you now?" 5 billion. Han Donglu said with a smile, "If you want, I will prepare a contract and sign it in the name of you and everyone in the East Emperor Palace. 5 billion will be yours immediately." 5 billion, Li Tianlan smiled and said, "Just halfway to 3,000 World and Phantom Palace. I have to think about myself. You have great potential now, but the situation is also very dangerous. Although I don't care about failure, I don't want to lose money for nothing. If you can win the final maneuver, I dare to give you 15 billion. Han Donglu said lightly, "In addition, if you want me to increase my investment, there is another way." Han Donglu looked at him with a smile. "As long as you marry Wang Yuetong or Dongqing Rushi, I can be sure of your future. At that time, the amount of investment will naturally be easy to negotiate." Li Tianlan looked at Han Donglu, who had a calm smile on his face, and suddenly said with a smile, "What if I marry Little Bai?" Han Donglu's palm trembled. "Not to mention 15 billion, I can give you 150 billion. Li Tianlan smiled and suddenly fell silent. "I can't marry them," Li Tianlan said lightly. He had no news of Qin Wei by now. Between him and Wang Yuetong, at least before he was strong enough to make others speechless, the Wang family of Beihai would never agree to let him marry Wang Yuetong. Wang Yuetong was his woman, but the Wang family of Beihai was still his enemy. "I can understand," Han Donglu said, "but Dongqing Rushi will be fine, right? According to the information I gathered, as long as you agree. Dongqing clan can even hold a wedding for you tomorrow." "I can't marry her." Li Tianlan smiled bitterly and rubbed his face. Han Donglu looked at Li Tianlan. His expression gradually softened as he smiled and said, "Is it because you don't want to owe me this favor?" His voice was gentle. Li Tianlan hesitated and nodded. "Me marrying Rushi is totally different from the Han family investing in the East Emperor Palace. I can't afford to owe them. They are indeed two different things." Han Donglu said, "But is it really as simple as you think? Perhaps you really don't want to owe this favor, but in Jianghu, there are many things that you can't decide." "What do you mean?" Li Tianlan suddenly looked up at Han Donglu. Chapter 313. Central Plains Gales. A strong wind that was close to level 8 swept through the entire Luojing city. The strong airflow whistled through every corner of the city. It was a peaceful city. A turbulent mountain. All the trees on the mountain whistled at the same time under the influence of the strong wind. Large swaths of the forest rustled. Broken branches and fallen leaves were swept up into the gloomy sky by the wind. Looking at the forest from above, the sea of trees that occupied the entire field of view rose and fell in the wind, as if the whole mountain was about to be overturned. The lights were on in the villa at the top of the mountain. The soft light shone on the huge white jade tea table in the living room. The light was soft and exquisite. Dongqing Hongguang and Dongqing Wudi sat opposite each other. On the coffee table between the two of them was an invitation card with red words on a black background. It had a strong visual impact. The wind blew against the simple and complicated window frame, making a whistling sound. In the depressing and silent living room, Dongqing Hongguang and Dongqing Wudi quietly looked at the invitation on the tea table. They had been silent for a long time. It was an invitation jointly signed by the Sky Academy and the Deep Sea Academy. In the final maneuver of the two academies a month later, Marshal Dongqing Wudi, the current director of the Zhongzhou State Decision-Making Committee, the standing minister of the Army Headquarters, and the commander of the Border Control Corps, was specially invited to attend. In every final maneuver of the two academies, military giants like the Dongqing clan would receive invitations. But this time, the invitation letter on the tea table had a different weight than before. Dongqing Wudi narrowed his eyes and looked at the invitation, his eyes shining with a sharp cold light. The invitation letter arrived in the morning. It was not sent to the army headquarters in Yuzhou, but directly to the headquarters of the Dongqing clan. In less than 3 hours, Dongqing Wudi flew directly back to Zhongyuan from Yuzhou without even having lunch. Dongqing Wudi was still waiting. He was waiting for the information he needed. The final maneuver of the 2 academies was a major event in the entire Zhongzhou. Every time, countless big shots would come. During the last maneuver, a director of the decision-making committee, 2 military marshals, and Gu Qianchuan, the first elder of Kunlun City, were present in person. This batch of students, whether it was in terms of strength or status, far surpassed the previous batch. When the time came, the situation would be even more lively. The invitation letter was sent over. Regardless of whether he was going or not, he had to send a reply. Dongqing Wudi was waiting for replies from all sides. This was information, but it was not classified, so it was not difficult to obtain this information. Dongqing Wudi looked at the invitation in front of him in silence. The invitation was very thin. But how much weight it carried would depend on the replies from the various parties. The wind outside the window grew stronger. The strong airflow roared in the mountains, bringing with it a piercingly cold and ear-piercing sound wave. There was no rain in the Central Plains today. But the shrill wind made the Central Plains in early summer seem unusually cold. Dongqing Hongguang stood up and walked to the window, looking down at the undulating forest outside. Large swathes of leaves and branches rose and fell with the wind. As the gale passed through, it was a complete mess. The early summer of the Dongqing clan was vaguely bleak. The old man's tired sigh and his phone rang at the same time. Dongqing Hongguang turned around. Dongqing Wudi took out his mobile phone and answered the call. "Marshal, I've found out." On the phone, Thunder God's voice sounded. In the Dongqing clan, Thunder God played the role of Dongqing Wudi's personal guard on the surface, similar to the chief guard. But in fact, he secretly controlled all the intelligence forces of the Dongqing clan and was one of the core figures. Dongqing Wudi hummed and said calmly, "How is it?" The wind outside the window grew more and more shrill. Dongqing Hongguang quietly looked at his son who answered the phone. In the sharp whistling sound, Thunder God's monotonous report was dull and clear. Dongqing Wudi's face gradually became dignified and gloomy. Thunder God spoke for a full 5 minutes. Dongqing Wudi listened silently all the time. Then he hummed and hung up the phone. Dongqing Hongguang came over and said in a tired voice, "How is it?" Dongqing Wudi frowned and thought for a while, then said in a deep voice, "There have been replies from all sides. Wang Tianzong and Gu Xingyun have confirmed that they will attend the maneuver of the 2 academies in person. In addition, representatives from major martial arts forces and major special warfare organizations will also attend." Dongqing Hongguang raised his eyebrows and asked, "Which council will attend this time?" "There has been no meeting to discuss this issue." Dongqing Wudi shook his head and said, "If there is no accident, it should be Chen Fangqing, or even the president will attend in person." Chen Fangqing, the prime minister of the cabinet of Zhongzhou State, the current flag figure of the Prince Group. If he attended the maneuver in person, together with Wang Tianzong and Gu Xingyun, the scene of the maneuver of the 2 academies could almost be compared with the scene of the first final maneuver when the 2 academies were just established. Most importantly, Wang Tianzong, Gu Xingyun, and Chen Fangqing. The arrival of these 3 people meant that the Southeast Group, the Special Warfare Group, and the Prince Group were completely connected. Wasn't this a kind of determination? Will Tianlan be okay? Dongqing Hongguang was silent for a while and suddenly asked. Dongqing Wudi's hand holding the phone trembled, and he didn't speak for a long time. This was a question that didn't need to be answered at all. The final maneuver of the 2 academies seemed to be a competition between the younger generation, but with the return of Li Tianlan, Wang Xingxiao, and Gu Hanzhan joining the Phantom Palace and the 3000 World respectively, it had become the battlefield of confrontation and game among the major forces in Zhongzhou State. Behind Wang Xingxiao were the Southeast Group and the Wang family of Beihai. Behind Gu Hanshan were the Special Warfare Group and Kunlun City. Behind Li Tianlan were the Giant Group and Sai City. These were the three young heavenly sons in Zhongzhou State who could steadily enter the invincible realm. If their identities weren't sensitive, this final maneuver wouldn't have become so lively. The chaos in the dark world was escalating almost every day. Under such circumstances, Wang Tianzong and Gu Xingyun decided to go to the maneuver site in person. Behind this decision, everyone could clearly smell the deep and strong killing intent. After Li Tianlan's return, Gu Hanshan and Wang Xingxiao joined the 3000 World and the Phantom Palace respectively. They might also become opponents. But the biggest opponent was undoubtedly Li Tianlan. When the main force of the East Emperor Palace was completely injured, Li Tianlan, who was more famous than them, would definitely become the target of Wang Xingxiao and Gu Hanshan. Wang Tianzong and Gu Xingyun appeared in person because they wanted to suppress everything with their powerful strength and power. They just wanted to see Li Tianlan die on the maneuver site. Would Tianlan be okay? There was no need to answer this question. Dongxing Wudi didn't dare to answer. What are you going to do? Dongxing Hongguang was silent for a while before asking softly. The old man's voice was still calm, but countless complex emotions were suppressed behind this calmness. I'll go to the scene in person. Dongxing Wudi said in a deep voice. Dongxing Hongguang looked at him quietly. In Dongxing Wudi's eyes, he saw determination. But, is it useful? Dongxing Hongguang asked. Dongxing Wudi rubbed the mobile phone in his hand and calmed himself down. The two highnesses of Sai City will also be there. Is it useful? Dongxing Hongguang asked the same question. The first question was just a question. The second question, on the other hand, was suffocating and suffocating, making it hard for them to breathe. This was also a question that didn't need to be answered. In the face of absolute force. What else was useful except more powerful force? Dad, I have confidence in Tianlan. Even if he can't win the final maneuver, it should not be difficult for him to protect himself. Dongxing Wudi said in a hoarse voice, and I really don't believe that Gu Xingyun and Wang Tianzong really dare to fight him in person. After all, Senior Li is still there. Senior Li. That's what I'm most worried about. Dongxing Hongguang whispered, the existence of Senior Li is the reason why Wang Tianzong and Gu Xingyun attach importance to Tianlan. Senior Li is in a bad state now, but he is extremely powerful. Neither the Wang family of Beihai nor Kunlun City wants to provoke him. But don't want to and can't are two different things. Maybe either of them will pay a heavy price when they meet Senior Li. But if they really join forces and destroy the Li family, even if there are still losses, it is not an unacceptable loss. Will they really join forces? Dongxing Wudi's expression was extremely interesting. How is that possible? Nothing is impossible. Dongxing Hongguang said indifferently, they didn't join forces before because Senior Li doesn't have much time, and they don't really care about Tianlan. So even if they want to, they lack a reason. Simply put, they don't think Tianlan is a threat, so they just wait for Senior Li to die. The so-called Li family will naturally disappear with a wave of their hands. But what if Tianlan is powerful enough to make them feel threatened? Dongxing Hongguang suddenly asked. Dongxing Wudi's face changed. Li Tianlan would be powerful enough to make Wang Tianzong and Gu Xingyun feel threatened, not to mention what it might be. As long as this possibility existed, the consequences would become unpredictable. I have a hunch. At this moment, Dongxing Hongguang suddenly thought of Great Master Wu Wei's bizarre death and Li Tianlan's resurrection 3 years ago. He couldn't tell what mood he was in, but he had a vague hunch. His voice became worried because of this hunch. Maybe everyone doesn't pay enough attention to Tianlan now. In the final maneuver, this kid is likely to surprise everyone. I'm not worried that he's too weak. I'm worried that he's too strong. In my opinion, he'd better lose the maneuver to barely protect himself. If he wins, his strength is tantamount to giving Wang Tianzong and Gu Xingyun a real reason to join forces. Once people like them really make up their minds and are willing to pay the price, Senior Li can't stop them, and neither can we. Dongqing Wudi finally smiled bitterly. Tianlan can't lose, he said. He didn't even need to communicate with Li Tianlan about this problem. The consequences of winning might be very serious, but Li Tianlan couldn't bear the consequences of losing. Once he lost the final maneuver, even if the Sky Academy was willing to give Li Tianlan a chance, Wang Tianzong and Gu Xingyun would not continue to agree to let Li Tianlan stay in school. And what was the point of staying in school? In the maneuver 3 years later, Li Tianlan still couldn't win. Once the outcome was like this, the East Emperor Palace might disband immediately. Li Tianlan would lose his foundation. Even if he was the young governor of Sai City and had the support of the Dongqing clan, his rise would become extremely difficult. The best ending might be to hide in the northeast like Sai City. So now, Li Tianlan had to move forward. No matter what difficulties he faced, he must move forward. From the time he appeared in the Sky Academy, he had no way out. It's better to let him come to the military for development. Dongqing Hongguang said. It's useless. Dongqing Wudi shook his head. I know what he's planning. That kid is afraid of owing us too much, or he doesn't want to get us into trouble, so he can't come to the military. Dongqing Hongguang nodded and said, so I'll ask you again. What are you going to do? Dongqing Wudi's heart trembled, and he subconsciously looked up at Dongqing Hongguang. Dongqing Hongguang's eyes were calm and deep. In his eyes, Dongqing Wudi also saw determination. But Dongqing Wudi was a little hesitant. The phone rang again. A strange number appeared on Dongqing Wudi's mobile phone. He raised his eyebrows, picked up the phone, and said hello. Marshal Dongqing? On the phone, a low and melodious male voice sounded, steady and calm. I am. Dongqing Wudi responded and said lightly, who are you? I'm military counselor. The male voice on the phone chuckled. Military counselor, Samsara Palace, military counselor. Dongqing Wudi was suddenly shocked and glanced at his father. He turned on the loudspeaker and forced himself to calm down. What's the matter? Not to mention military counselor, a super master of Samsara. After the final battle of Heaven Capital, Samsara Palace withdrew from Zhongzhou State. For 3 years, the Dongqing clan didn't even have contact with Samsara Palace. Palace Master wants to borrow something from Marshal. Military counselor said in a gentle tone. Dongqing Hongguang and Dongqing Wudi looked at each other and asked, what is it? Palace Master wants a batch of Mingi, about 20. I wonder if Marshal can bear to part with it? Military counselor's voice became lower and gentler. Mingi. It turned out to be Mingi. Dongqing Hongguang suddenly stood up. He stared at the phone as if he had seen a ghost. You have people in the Dongqing clan. Dongqing Wudi gritted his teeth, but he had already begun to filter the list of some core figures of the Dongqing clan's secret arsenal in his mind. Mingi was the latest research result of the Dongqing clan. It was not a firearm, but a liquid biological bomb. Its main effect was extremely corrosive and neurotoxic. It could be regarded as a biochemical weapon. A portion of Mingi was about 500 grams, but once it was detonated, it was enough to turn the area within a radius of nearly 100 meters into a dead zone. Even experts at the peak of the thunder-shocking realm could not stand for long in the explosive area of Mingi. The most important thing was that it had only been 2 months since Mingi came out, and it was still in the debugging stage. Few people in the Dongqing clan knew about it. Even Dongqing Wujin, who was currently developing a new generation of armor alloys, did not know the existence of Mingi. Mingi, a liquid bomb full of destruction and aesthetics of destruction, was the top technology developed by several weapons experts whom the Dongqing clan had painstakingly dug out for several years. How could Samsara Palace know the research results of the Dongqing clan so quickly? The list of several people who knew the existence of the Mingi bomb flashed through Dongqing Wudi's mind. In any case, they could not betray the Dongqing clan and leak such secrets. Marshal, you misunderstood. Military counselor said with a smile, we just learned about it by accident, so we took the liberty to borrow some. Marshal, don't worry. Samsara Palace can be enemies with anyone, but we will always be friends with the Dongqing clan. Dongqing Wudi took a deep breath and forced himself to calm down. He stared at the phone for a long time, and then slowly said, why should I lend you Mingyi? There are about 20 portions of Mingyi in the Dongqing clan's inventory now. For Li Tianlan's future. Military counselor said in a very soft voice. The reason was simple, but it was sufficient for Dongqing Wudi to refuse. His face changed. After a long time, he sneered and said, does Tianlan have a future? Of course. Military counselor's tone was firm. There is no doubt about that. Really? What if Gu Xingyun and Wang Tianzong want to take action in person at the scene of the final maneuver? When the time comes, will your palace lord lend a hand? Dongqing Wudi sneered. Military counselor was silent for a while. After a long time, he said calmly, Marshal, don't worry. Tianlan will be fine. Even if Wang Tianzong and Gu Xingyun want to take action, they have to have a chance. I can't tell you more. I can only say that Mingyi is very important to our plan and the future of Tianlan. If you are willing to give up Mingyi, I will send someone to the Dongqing clan to get it in 3 days. Military counselor finished quietly and hung up the phone without waiting for Dongqing Wudi's reply. As soon as the phone was hung up, it rang again, and the connection was very urgent. Dongqing Wudi didn't even have time to communicate with Dongqing Hongguang. He looked at the number angrily and immediately answered it. Marshal. Marshal, on the phone, a stuttering voice sounded because of excitement. What's the matter? Dongqing Wudi was a little surprised. Secretary. Secretary Bai is here. There was a deep breath on the phone. They have gone up the mountain. You should answer it. Is it Qingqian? A touch of loneliness flashed in Dongqing Wudi's eyes. Yes, it's 2 secretaries Bai. Both are here. Dongqing Wudi didn't react for a moment. He was just about to ask where the 2 secretaries Bai came from when Dongqing Hongguang's face suddenly changed. 2 secretaries Bai? Bai Zhanfang? Yes. The voice on the phone was clear and straightforward. It's Governor Bai. Dongqing Hongguang and his son changed their expressions at the same time. They looked at each other, put on their coats, and walked straight out of the villa. The wind was howling on the top of the mountain. In the sight of the father and son, a black Audi with a Yuzhou license plate was slowly going up the mountain along the mountain road. 2 secretaries Bai, Dongqing Wudi and Dongqing Hongguang both looked bitter. They all knew who was coming this time. There were only 2 secretaries Bai in the whole Bai family. One was Bai Qingqian, the number 1 figure in Guangdong province. The other was Bai Qingqian's father, a member of the decision-making committee of Zhongzhou State and the top leader of Yuzhou, Bai Zhanfang. He was Dongqing Hongguang's old friend and Dongqing Wudi's father-in-law. In their memory, Bai Zhanfang seemed to have only been here once in the past 20 years, when Dongqing Rushi was just born. Later, with the complete break between Bai Qingqian and the Dongqing clan, the relationship between the Bai family and the Dongqing clan became less and less. Now, except for advancing and retreating together in politics, they had almost cut off contact in private. Now the patriarch of the Bai family came to Zhongyuan in person. Although it was silent, Dongqing Wudi could clearly feel that the other party came with bad intentions. The Audi went up unhurriedly in the cold mountain wind. It finally stopped in front of Dongqing Hongguang and Dongqing Wudi. Dongqing Wudi wanted to open the door himself. But Dongqing Hongguang, who looked a little unnatural, took a step forward and opened the door of the Audi himself. Bai Qingqian, graceful and noble, walked out of the car briskly. Her bright smile seemed to illuminate the gloomy sky and dispel the wind for a moment. Dad, what are you doing? If others see it, they will think I'm not filial. Wudi will definitely scold me at night. Bai Qingqian stood in front of Dongqing Hongguang in a clean and tidy lady's suit. Her face was ruddy, and she seemed a little embarrassed. Dongqing Hongguang suddenly froze in place. He seemed to have lost all reaction. He just quietly looked at Bai Qingqian, who was smiling gently and obediently in front of him. Such a daughter-in-law was very strange to him, but also very familiar. This was Bai Qingqian 20 years ago. This was Bai Qingqian before she broke with the Dongqing clan. At that time, she and Dongqing Wudi loved each other and treated each other with respect. She was well-behaved and gentle, and she was the most popular young mistress of the Dongqing clan. Dongqing Hongguang was in a trance. At this moment, the haze of more than 20 years seemed to be like a dream. Old leader, long time no see. A gentle voice sounded in Dongqing Hongguang's ear. Dongqing Hongguang suddenly came to his senses. In front of him stood a little old man in ordinary clothes. The old man was a little short, with some faint age spots on his face. He wore ordinary clothes and had no aura. He looked like an ordinary old farmer who lived on 2 acres of land. But no one in the whole Zhongzhou state dared to look down on this little old man. In the past 20 years, Bai Zhanfang had been elected as a member of the decision-making committee for 4 consecutive terms and occupied the position of the top leader of Yuzhou for 15 years. Although Bai Zhanfang had never advanced, he had never retreated. He was getting stronger and stronger. In 15 years, his influence had penetrated all aspects of Yuzhou. In private, Bai Zhanfang even had the nickname of Lord of Yuzhou, which was enough to show the horror of the old man. Dongqing Hongguang smiled bitterly, held Bai Zhanfang's hand tightly, and said with emotion, "Zhanfang, how long has it been since we last met? Why do you suddenly want to come to Zhongyuan this time? Qing Qian was concerned about your birthday, so she specially returned to Yuzhou and dragged me here. She wanted to choose a birthday present for you. In order to choose a birthday gift for you, she went around in Yuzhou for 3 days before she found one that satisfied her. This year is your birthday, so I have to come to congratulate you in person." Bai Zhanfang said with a smile. "All right." Bai Qingqian took 2 steps forward and gently took Dongqing Wudi's arm in surprise. She said with a smile, "We're family. Don't stand outside and be polite. It's windy. Let's go inside and talk." She looked at Dongqing Wudi, who was still a little dull, and said with a soft smile, "Is there any food at home? I'll cook something delicious for you and Dad tonight. I'll be at home these days, and I'll go back to Guangzhou in a few days." Dongqing Wudi quietly looked at his wife, who seemed to be in the past. Bai Qingqian's performance was gentle and natural. But there was only calmness deep in her eyes. Dongqing Wudi's heart kept sinking again and again. "Qingqian, you," he opened his mouth. Bai Qingqian suddenly shook her head and said softly, "Don't say more. You know why I'm here, and I know what you're going to say. In that case, don't say it, lest you ruin everyone's mood." She took Dongqing Wudi into the villa. Her body was soft and warm. But Dongqing Wudi suddenly felt that the air around him was piercingly cold, and the coldness went deep into his bone marrow little by little, almost making him unable to breathe. "I'm a useless woman, but I always want to do something. Although I don't know the final result, as long as I do what I should do, it's enough." Bai Qingqian said softly, "Am I right?" Dongqing Wudi was speechless for a while. At this moment, he completely understood Bai Qingqian's intention. Now she was extremely gentle. But this was her most intense and decisive reaction in more than 20 years. There was still a month to go before the final maneuver of the 2 academies. When Li Tianlan's future was uncertain and his life and death were uncertain. She came to the Dongqing clan, in the most gentle and filial manner. Such a gesture might be a new beginning. It might also be the most thorough end. Dongqing Wudi looked at Bai Qingqian. Bai Qingqian's posture was elegant. Dongqing Wudi saw madness. She was weak but strong enough to burn everything. At this moment, he completely understood. If something happened to Li Tianlan a month later, Bai Qingqian would not ask why at all. As long as there was an accident. He and she. The Bai family and the Dongqing clan. They would become enemies. Enemies who would fight to the death. Chapter 3:14. Summer Solstice loved flowers and plants. As the hostess of the Wang family of Beihai, Summer Solstice rarely appeared in public. Commercial finance? She didn't understand. Political diplomacy? No. The general trend of the dark world? No participation. Some secret scientific research projects of the Wang family of Beihai? She didn't even bother to look at them. In addition to her husband and children, delicate and bright flowers and plants were all of her inner world. She had a husband who could shelter her from all the storms, so her life became extremely simple. On weekdays, she played with flowers and plants, cooked when she was in a good mood, went shopping when she felt bored, and talked with her husband at night. Her life seemed to be carefree and colorful. Her name was Summer Solstice. Her favorite was early summer, when the grass was long and the birds were flying and the flowers were in full bloom. It was like her world, gorgeous and fresh, without clouds. Summer Solstice was taking care of her new research results. There was a thermostatic greenhouse in the palace where she and Wang Tianzong lived. It was not big, but it was enough to test the growth habits of some flowers and plants she had improved. Xia Ji carefully watered the flowers with the kettle. In front of her was a pot of white flowers with a little red. The petals were delicate. As the water drops fell, the petals opened and closed shyly. It was quiet and beautiful. Summer Solstice's lively eyes watched the petals shrink slightly, and she finally couldn't help giggling. She played with the petals in front of her with some joy. After a long while, she reluctantly left the thermostatic greenhouse and walked into the living room. In the large but simple living room, Wang Tianzong sat on the sofa and stared at the TV. The TV screen was divided into several pictures. Obviously, they were videos taken at different times. Wang Tianzong's expression was serious and focused, so that Summer Solstice walked to him without him noticing. "What are you watching? So serious?" Summer Solstice muttered with some dissatisfaction. She casually glanced at the screen and suddenly froze. On several small screens, there were thunder and heavy rain, day and night, but more often, there was a young man's figure. Li Tianlan? Summer Solstice looked at Wang Tianzong in surprise and said helplessly, "Have you been watching this these days? It's very interesting." Wang Tianzong chuckled, picked up the remote control, and adjusted the windows on the screen. The many small windows became two, occupying the whole screen. The image on the left was of a clear sky, but the image was extremely blurry. In the image, the white-clothed barefooted figure stood quietly in the same place, and the sword curtain around him had been completely disrupted. Song Si held the curtain of night in her hand and descended from the sky. Li Tianlan made a seal with both hands and severely injured Song Si in an instant. Then Wang Xingxiao arrived in time. On the right, it was night time. Li Tianlan, Dongqing Rushi, and Jiang Shangyu were standing together. They seemed to be chatting. Xia Ji stared blankly with a puzzled expression. "It's like they're two different people," Wang Tianzong said softly. He had said similar words several times in the past few days, but this time, there was finally a trace of certainty in his tone. "What?" Summer Solstice was so confused that she even forgot why she came here. "If Li Tianlan is stronger than Xingxiao, do you think he would dare to kill Xingxiao?" Wang Tianzong suddenly asked. When it came to Wang Xingxiao, Summer Solstice's attention was completely focused in an instant. "I don't dare." Summer Solstice said, "If he kills Xingxiao, he won't be able to live. He must understand this." Wang Tianzong looked at the screen in front of him quietly and didn't say anything for a while. "Will he be stronger than Xingxiao?" Summer Solstice sat beside Wang Tianzong and asked seriously. "Didn't I lose to Li Kuangta back then?" Wang Tianzong smiled and said calmly, "Before entering the invincible realm, the 24 moves of Sword of the Li family do have some advantages. This is undeniable. It's not the same." Summer Solstice hesitated and wanted to say something. Wang Tianzong did compete with Li Guangtu when he was in the fire-flaming realm, and even Lin Fengting, but he didn't lose. He just didn't win. Later, when they entered the thunder-shocking realm, they competed again, and Wang Tianzong could beat Li Guangtu by half a move. This was different from Li Tianlan and Wang Xingxiao. If Wang Xingxiao lost in the thunder-shocking realm, he might not win back. Summer Solstice looked at Wang Tianzong. She knew her husband very well, so she didn't think Li Tianlan had a chance to enter the invincible realm. Will Xingxiao lose? Summer Solstice confirmed again. I don't know. Wang Tianzong shook his head. Summer Solstice fell silent. She knew very well what the answer meant. Wang Tianzong knew it, but he was hesitating. He hesitated whether to kill Li Tianlan directly before the final maneuver. If he did it in person, even 10 Li Tianlan could not be killed by his sword. Maybe I should go to Lin then. Wang Tianzong whispered to himself. Summer Solstice's face changed slightly, and a trace of bitterness and depression flashed in her eyes. She was born to be lively and cheerful, but now she was sad, with a heart-shaking tenderness. Is it necessary? Summer Solstice asked softly. It is necessary. Wang Tianzong said with certainty. Then, Summer Solstice tilted her head and said cautiously, maybe we can let Kunlun City do it. Gu Xingyin may not be a match for Senior Li now, so only I can do it. Of course, if I go to Lin then, Gu Xingyin must also go, so that nothing can go wrong. After all, I can beat Senior Li, but if he wants to leave, I may not be able to stop him. Summer Solstice was silent. She knew very well what Wang Tianzong meant. If Wang Tianzong wanted to kill Li Tianlan, he had to pass through Li Honghe. Otherwise, once Li Tianlan died and Li Honghe went crazy, even if he could not defeat Wang Tianzong, he had enough ability to cause absolute heavy losses to the Wang family of Beihai. Kill Li Honghe first. Then kill Li Tianlan. That was the most correct order. If something happens to Li Tianlan, then that, hell of heaven capital? Will they take action? Summer Solstice really did not pay attention to the dark world, and even called the purgatory of heaven capital wrong. It's very likely that he won't. Not for the time being. Wang Tianzong thought for a moment and said lightly, even if they take action, we have the upper hand in terms of strength. They won't take action? Summer Solstice stared into Wang Tianzong's eyes. Very likely. Wang Tianzong said, because of Senior Li. The Li family is paranoid. So the purgatory of heaven capital won't take action. Summer Solstice looked at Wang Tianzong and saw the faint killing intent deep in his eyes. Have you ever thought about what will happen to Yue Tong if you kill Li Tianlan? Wang Tianzong's body stiffened. After a long time, he said calmly, time will erase everything. I'm her father, but I'm also the patriarch of the Wang family of Beihai. Whether I like it or not, I have to be responsible for the Wang family of Beihai. Li Tianlan can't affect the Wang family of Beihai now. Summer Solstice said. But he will later. Wang Tianzong sighed. No matter what reasons we had in those days, it's a fact that we stood by and watched. It's okay if the Li family was silent, but Li Tianlan appeared. You know what it means. How much power did the Li family have in the Southeast group? My father was excellent in martial arts, but his character was slightly mediocre. Senior Li was in the Southeast group at that time, and his power even vaguely surpassed my father's. In the Southeast group, he had too many direct descendants. The Wang family of Beihai hasn't done anything big for more than 20 years, and a considerable part of it has been used to eliminate the Li family's influence in the Southeast group. But even so, we haven't done enough. As soon as Li Tianlan appeared, there were voices in the Southeast group that the Li family's former glory was restored. Ning Ziyuan is one of them, and even his voice is not the loudest. Restore the Li family's glory? What will the Wang family of Beihai do? Summer Solstice, you should know that the Wang family of Beihai and the Li family can't be together anymore. In this way, once Li Tianlan grows up, the southeast group will even have the risk of splitting. What will happen to the strength of the split southeast group? At that time, we don't have enough power to speak, and we can't even protect the Wang family of Beihai. I don't want to target Senior Li. But I have no choice. Wang Tianzong stood up. He looked at the screen hanging on the wall and continued, and even without this reason, the reappearance of the Li family is not a good thing for the Wang family of Beihai. Everyone has gone their separate ways, and the Li family has risen again. Even if it can't take away the southeast group, its appearance is also our opponent. I don't think there is anything wrong with destroying the opponent in advance. On the screen, Li Tianlan stood on the high platform. In a flash, the sword energy all over the sky was boiling. Wang Tianzong narrowed his eyes and whispered, I can feel that Li Tianlan is not far from the invincible realm. At least he is on the right path now, and he even sees the end. What a pity, so what? Summer Solstice said in a clear voice, even if he really enters the invincible realm, isn't it a matter of one sword stroke for you to kill him? The Li family and the Wang family of Beihai did part ways, but countless people still remember the relationship of hundreds of years. Li Tianlan refused to join us, but he didn't show obvious hostility to us. Why are you in a hurry to take action? Can't you wait a little longer? Wang Tianzong hesitated. He looked at his wife and shook his head slowly. I can't wait. His eyes quietly became dignified. You may not know, but I have asked the laboratory to refine a whole set of immortality potion. A whole set. Summer Solstice screamed, what happened? It's just a backup. Wang Tianzong shook his head. Nothing has happened yet, but I have a feeling that something big is really going to happen in the dark world. Something big beyond imagination. I killed Li Tianlan in advance, which is equivalent to eliminating a variable in advance. Summer Solstice's face changed. It was hard for her to imagine what kind of thing would make Wang Tianzong feel uncertain and even refine a set of immortality potion as a backup. I shouldn't have told you this. Wang Tianzong came over and touched Summer Solstice's hair. He said softly, but I'm going to take action against Senior Li. If I don't tell you, I'm afraid you'll blame me. Summer Solstice looked sad and shook her head. She whispered, what else can I say? I'm sorry. Wang Tianzong hesitated and held Summer Solstice in his arms. I'm sorry to make things difficult for you. Summer Solstice gently leaned against Wang Tianzong's arms and whispered, Senior Li is our matchmaker. Without him, I might have married someone else. I'm very grateful to Senior Li, Wang Tianzong whispered. His voice was unusually gentle. It's the luckiest thing for me to marry you. Summer Solstice raised her head from Wang Tianzong's arms and said with a faint smile, don't coax me with sweet words. How are you lucky to marry me? Wang Tianzong frowned and thought for a while. He honestly smiled and said, you're very beautiful. There were also beauties in their generation. Situ Tsangyue, the governor of Sai City, Yun Qingxi, the phantom sword master of Mount Shu, and Bai Qingqian, the current top leader of Guangdong province, they were all rare beauties. But in Wang Tianzong's eyes, Summer Solstice was the most beautiful and had never changed. Just because I'm beautiful? Summer Solstice's little eyebrows gradually raised, as if she was about to explode. Also because you cook very well. Wang Tianzong continued. What else? Summer Solstice narrowed her beautiful eyes. Well, when I'm not here, you can look after the house. I'm very relieved. Wang Tianzong continued. You actually treat me as a doorkeeper. Summer Solstice raised her hand. Before she finished her words, Wang Tianzong had already picked her up. There are many other reasons, but I can't tell you all of them. I'm afraid you'll be proud. Fuck you. Summer Solstice blushed and got down from Wang Tianzong's arms. She tried hard not to think about Senior Li and whispered, by the way, I came here to ask you to see my new work. Let's go and have a look. It's very beautiful. Wang Tianzong looked at his watch. He hesitated and said with a smile, "You go first." Qinglei just came back. I asked him to have tea. Qinglei. Wang Qinglei. The former governor of Wuyue province, now one of the youngest members of the decision-making committee in Zhongzhou state, the top leader of Wuyue province. Wang Qinglei had been in the decision-making committee for only 2 years, but he had worked in Wuyue for more than 10 years, so his foundation was extremely stable. Some small circles even had the title of King of the Southeast. He was one of the most important figures in the Wang family of Beihai and the Southeast Group. He was also the leader of a large branch within the Wang family of Beihai. Summer solstice's beautiful eyes changed. Wang Qinglei was Wang Tianzong's distant cousin. Although his home was also in Mount Dibing, he worked in Wuyue all year round and did not have much contact on weekdays. Now Wang Qinglei returned to Mount Dibing in person, and it was not a holiday, which could only mean one thing. Has the matter of Commander Ning been settled? Summer solstice whispered. It's time to settle it. Wang Tianzong said calmly, if we don't take action, there will be more and more voices within the group. We can't let Ziyuan continue to make trouble. First, he mobilized Ning Ziyuan to warn some voices within the group that supported the Li family. Then it was time to take action against Li Honghe. Summer solstice sighed softly. I'll give Li Tianlan one last chance. Wang Tianzong whispered. What chance? Summer solstice asked subconsciously. I have an appointment with Qin Weibai tomorrow. It's right here. The news is estimated to have been delivered. Let's see if she dares to come. Wang Tianzong's tone was indifferent. When Wang Qinglei walked into the hall, Wang Tianzong had turned off the TV. There were 2 cups of tea on the tea table. They seemed to have just been brewed and were still steaming. Sister-in-law is not at home? Wang Qinglei looked at the tea on the tea table and smiled naturally. He was of medium build, but he had a square face that was full of power. The most impressive thing about him was his thick eyebrows. They were like swords, and when they were slightly raised, they gave off an extremely strong sense of oppression. She's playing with her treasures. Wang Tianzong looked at his cousin, who had been a little estranged from him in recent years. He chuckled and said, she said she has some new achievements. Don't worry about her. He pointed to the teacup and said, try it. The tea leaves just picked in Choshui City. If you like it, take some back. Wang Qinglei waved his hand and said with a smile, I have freshly picked top-grade Longjing in my office. I've been used to drinking it for so many years. Wang Tianzong nodded and did not force him. Have you talked with Ziyuan? Wang Qinglei's face suddenly became serious and he nodded. Yes. The result was not ideal, was it? Wang Tianzong said with a smile. Wang Qinglei looked at Wang Tianzong with some surprise. Before the establishment of the Border Control Corps, Ning Ziyuan was a combat staff officer in the Western Theater of Operations with the rank of Major. When there was a conflict between Zhongzhou State and Heng State, Senior Li saved his life at the border of Heng State, and then transferred him from the Western Theater of Operations to the Eastern Theater of Operations. He was promoted all the way. Wang Tianzong whispered. Wang Qinglei smiled bitterly and said helplessly, it was not a good talk. Ziyuan meant that the Li family did not do anything wrong to Zhongzhou State or the Southeast Group. The treason case was also full of doubts. He thought that since the Li family had reappeared, the group should give support and help the Li family restore their status in Zhongzhou State. As he spoke, he shook his head first. Wang Tianzong took a sip of tea and whispered, it's expected. Since we can't reach an agreement, let's give him a position. Wang Qinglei, who had been mentally prepared, nodded. He asked, who will go to the Eastern Theater of Operations? Dongqing Wudi will choose this position. Our people will take over a corps under the Border Control Corps. Wang Tianzong thought for a moment and said calmly. Do you want to trade the Border Control Corps? Wang Qinglei was thoughtful. Wang Tianzong said in a calm but unquestionable tone, Emperor Jiang. There was no room for negotiation in his tone. Wang Qinglei narrowed his eyes and glanced at Wang Tianzong. The Border Control Corps was known as a small military department. The commander must be the Marshal of Zhongzhou State, who had great power. Wang Qinglei was also very enthusiastic about this position. However, it was not appropriate for him to compete with Wang Tianzong. He clenched his fists calmly and nodded. I think it's okay. What about Ziyuan? Give him an idle position? Or retire early? Wang Tianzong seemed to have a headache. He hesitated and said, this is not good. Taking down Ning Ziyuan was indeed a warning to some of the forces supporting the Li family within the group. But if it was too straightforward, it might cause a backlash. After all, Ning Ziyuan had not reached the age of retirement, and he even had the potential to go further. I have a suggestion. Wang Qinglei said. Wang Tianzong glanced at him. If it doesn't work, put him in Tiannan. Emperor Jiang controls the Border Control Corps and can keep an eye on him. Wang Qinglei said. Tiannan. There was no such province in Zhongzhou State. But in the border war more than 3 years ago, the Border Control Corps directly penetrated 800 miles into Annan State. Now that land had been regarded as a possession by Zhongzhou State, it was secretly called Tiannan Province. In the constant protests of Annan State, Zhongzhou State nominally withdrew from that land, but the army did not withdraw. All the soldiers took off their uniforms and became the rebels of Annan State. Now they confronted the forces of Annan State and the Purgatory of Heaven capital. Emperor Jiang was the leader of this rebel army. If Emperor Jiang controlled the Border Control Corps, then it was undoubtedly very appropriate to let Ning Ziyuan control this rebel army. And it was of great importance, which could shut some people's mouths. But, Wang Tianzong took a deep look at Wang Qinglei. Don't you think the Purgatory of Heaven capital is strange? The Purgatory of Heaven capital may have something to do with the Li family back then. But unless Ning Ziyuan really wants to commit treason, he will only be more loyal if he is put in Tiannan. At that time, if there is really something wrong, he can be taken down at any time, and then others will have nothing to say. Wang Qinglei said with a smile. In addition, if you want to target the Li family, there is another move. For spirits have been very peaceful in recent years. Since the Purgatory of Heaven capital may have something to do with the Li family, it is better to put Spirit Tortoise in Tiannan and let them fight each other. If Spirit Tortoise is disobedient, it can also be taken down. Some rumors can do it. If you don't object, I can do it. Wang Qinglei said with a smile, we all understand. With Li Honghe, the Li family can't really commit treason. Wang Tianzong hesitated a little and finally nodded. Okay. He approved of this transfer. It also meant that there was a prelude to the conquest against the Li family. Chapter 3:15. Night fell quietly. The tide began to rise at the seaside. In the deep night, the majestic sea continued to blend in the darkness. The night sky continued to darken, and the undulating surface of the sea seemed to be rising. The small island was like a piece of wood floating in the deep sea, and it could be completely torn apart by the raging tides of the darkness at any time. The cold current of the Arctic Ocean poured into the Pacific Ocean with the wind. It was early summer on the island, but it was still cold. The coldness made people rational. Qin Weibai particularly liked this kind of cold atmosphere. The night grew darker. The tide rose and fell on the seaside, gradually calming down. The wind was stronger, and the island was full of deep chill. Qin Weibai sat silently on a rock by the sea, looking into the distance. Her hair fluttered in the wind, and she looked a little lonely in the darkness. Flaming fire stood quietly behind Qin Weibai, less than 5 meters away. One was sitting, and the other was standing, both like statues. In terms of latitude and longitude, this was an isolated island at the junction of the Arctic Ocean and the Pacific Ocean. It was located in the deep sea, with a small area and little development value, so it was not even marked on the map. This place was far away from all routes and uninhabited, so no matter how one looked at it, it looked like a useless isolated island. This island, which had not been named by any country and did not belong to any country, had another name in the dark world. Samsara Palace. The headquarters of Samsara Palace was here. This was a pure land that had never been exposed to the eyes of the dark world. Many people knew that the headquarters of Samsara Palace was on the sea, but until today, no one could determine the specific location of the headquarters of Samsara Palace. A black spot appeared on the dark sea. The black spot became clear from blur, getting closer and closer to the headquarters of Samsara Palace. Qin Weibai, who had been silent for a long time, suddenly said, "Brighten it." Behind Qin Weibai, flaming fire picked up the walkie-talkie and repeated Qin Weibai's instructions. In the next second, the pitch-black island was suddenly lit up. The soft light flashed in all directions of the island, and the light spread to every corner of the island. Qin Weibai's figure was shrouded in the light. She sat on a rock by the sea, with her black hair dancing, with a kind of almost transparent beauty and dreamy. The black spot on the sea had come ashore. This was a thin figure, his entire body covered in a black cloak. He was quiet and silent. But as he came ashore, the hidden sword energy had filled the entire sea in an instant. He carried a box in his hand and carried an ancient sword, looking mysterious and low-key. "Did you bring it?" Qin Weibai looked at the box in his hand. "It's all here." Saint, who had been silent in the dark world for 3 years, bowed slightly and said calmly, 22 portions of the sticks." It was military counselor who had asked the Dongxing clan. Military counselor asked the Dongxing clan. But it was Saint who fetched the goods from Sai City and sent them to the headquarters of Samsara Palace. Qin Weibai looked at the box in Saint's hand. She was silent for a moment before saying, "Open it." Saint carefully placed the box in front of Qin Weibai and opened it. Rows of the box. Saint level of the box. Of. To be, and of. Saint of, he of, he. Of, there. In, there, in. Of red liquid. Of, in. Some fiery red magma-like liquid was flowing in the container, appearing to be boiling, and the top layer was even bubbling. It was the latest research of the Dongxing clan. Judging from the war in the dark world, the liquid bomb was even more widely used than the solid bomb. The power of C was not in its small and ridiculous explosion. It was in its extremely corrosive and neurotoxic effect after the explosion. That was the most important thing. The thunder-shocking realm was the top combat capability in the dark world. Any modern weapon that could threaten the life of a thunder-shocking realm expert was the crystallization of technology. It was a treasure. Qin Weibai stood up and said calmly, "Follow me." Saint closed the box and walked behind Qin Weibai. The light illuminated the whole island. On the island, there were many antique palaces arranged in a picturesque way. Against the background of flowers and trees, it looked vast. Qin Weibai waved her hand. The lights that had just been turned on went out one by one. Darkness covered the island again. There was no moon tonight. Qin Weibai's tall and slim figure walked in the starry night. She looked lonely. Saint followed Qin Weibai in silence. The look in his eyes became somewhat complicated. The 12 super masters of Samsara. He and military counselor were definitely the most special too. Saint knew too many of Qin Weibai's secrets. He knew what she wanted to do, why she fell in love with Li Tianlan, and all her plans. Maybe it was because he knew these things. So he was not sure about the boss's mood at this moment. At this moment, he was not sure whether she had forgotten the whole world or been forgotten by the whole world. Either way, it was good. Qin Weibai walked into the hall closest to the seaside. It was dark in the hall. In the quiet and windless environment, the silence was despairingly quiet. Qin Weibai reached out and touched the wall. The wall caved in slightly, revealing a sophisticated screen. Enter the password. Enter the fingerprint. Scan the pupil. Verify the sound. Confirm the temperature. Everything was correct. Crack, in the dark hall, the ground shook slightly. The floor opened to both sides. Soft light shone from the ground, and a bright and deep road appeared in front of Qin Weibai. The passage was so long that people could not see the end. Saint looked at the passage in front of him. His eyes seemed to be looking at a dead end. What do you say? Qin Weibai turned to look at Saint. The light from the ground illuminated a small part of her face. The lines of her face were sharp and delicate. It was perfect beyond people's imagination. At this time, it had a kind of majesty that people could not look at directly. Do you regret it? Saint suddenly asked. Why would I regret it? Qin Weibai asked. Maybe. Don't you feel sad? Because I don't regret it. Qin Weibai shook her head and said calmly, go back. We may not meet again in the future. Saint looked at Flaming Fire. Flaming Fire was looking at Qin Weibai. Her cold face was full of fanatical worship and admiration at this time. This kind of emotion was so intense that it even surpassed life and death. You can't control me. Saint looked at Qin Weibai. When I joined the Samsara Palace, I said that no one can order me. So? Qin Weibai's eyes were cold. My strength has been restored. Saint said, even stronger than 3 years ago. It's useless. Qin Weibai smiled. It's useless for you to get involved. Military counselor is smarter than you. That's because he's too stupid or too loyal. Saint shook his head. Military counselor also knew what Qin Weibai wanted to do. So he did not come. As Qin Weibai had just said, she and military counselor might not meet again in the future. Because he had more important things to do. Qin Weibai's eyes became a little cold. Go back. She reached out to Saint and asked for the box containing sticks. Saint was motionless. He looked at the deep and bright underground passage. Qin Weibai could not control him. But he could not stop Qin Weibai. This passage was very long. If this was the last step on her way to the dead end, then, I'll send you on your last journey, Saint said. His tone was complicated. He whispered, don't worry, I know what I'm doing. Qin Weibai took a deep look at Saint. After a while, she nodded and walked down the passage into the underground. Flaming Fire followed. Saint carried the box and walked at the back. The sound of high-heeled shoes hitting the ground echoed softly. The open floor in the hall gradually closed. The light disappeared. Pure darkness shrouded everything again. Recall all the super masters of Samsara except military counselor and ghost. In the deep passage, Qin Weibai walked forward. When she was about to reach the end, she suddenly said that. Okay. Flaming Fire agreed without hesitation. In the past 3 years, except for Saint, military counselor, and ghost, the rest of the 12 super masters of Samsara had been fighting with the superpowers. Now the chaos had become more and more intense. Samsara Palace was not the most powerful among them, but it was definitely one of the protagonists of this chaos. Now all the super masters were found. Obviously, Qin Weibai thought it was time to put an end to it. Flaming Fire took out her mobile phone and suddenly said, Boss, there's news from military counselor. Say it. Qin Weibai's tone was concise. The Wang family of Beihai sent an invitation to the Amon family. 3 days later, Wang Tianzong asked you to meet at Mount Dibbing. Flaming Fire said. The Amon family was one of the German wealthy families. In the Dark World, the Amon family had been recognized as one of the peripheral forces of Samsara Palace. The Wang family of Beihai sent the invitation to the Amon family to ensure that Qin Weibai would receive the news as soon as possible. I don't have time. Qin Weibai replied without hesitation. Flaming Fire was stunned and tentatively said, Then should I refuse the Wang family of Beihai? Qin Weibai stopped in her tracks. No, 1 week. I'll go to Mount Dibbing a week later. Qin Weibai said. Flaming Fire nodded and said yes. Boss, can you tell me why all of this is happening? Saint, who had been silent, suddenly asked. His voice was a little hoarse in the corridor and echoed. I'm tired. Qin Weibai was silent for a while and then whispered, I want to rest. Just because of deity's words? Saint's tone was a little cold, and there was a vague sordid intent around him. Deity is also a human being. He can only represent himself. You didn't go to Linhan? Qin Weibai asked. Then she came to her senses and nodded. Oh, it was military counselor who went there. Saint's face changed. Linhan. That was where Li Honghe was. There's no time. Qin Weibai whispered, that damned old man is dying. Is that why you put yourself in a desperate situation? Saint asked in a low voice. I have no regrets. Qin Weibai said and walked directly out of the passage. At the end of the passage was a huge hall. There were countless unknown instruments placed in the hall. At this moment, all of the instruments were operating at the same time. As far as the eye could see, all kinds of signal lights were flashing non-stop. On the huge screen at the top of the hall, a series of cryptic data was flashing and rolling, dazzling the eyes. There were several glass covers in the center of the hall. The glass covers were connected with countless wires. Some subtle electric currents stimulated the glass covers and reflected various colors. A short old man was walking back and forth in the hall with a fanatical face. He kept muttering to himself, like a mad researcher. The research had reached the last step. So at this time, only the old man was left in the hall. Qin Weibai walked to the center of the hall and counted the number of glass covers. There were 9 in total. Under each glass cover, there was a body lying quietly, either male or female. Their eyes were closed, as if they were sleeping. Qin Weibai remembered that nearly 50 people were sent here. Now there were only 9 people left. It was a terrible and suffocating loss rate. Qin Weibai frowned and asked, how much longer? The old man, who had been muttering to himself, suddenly came to his senses. When he saw Qin Weibai, his eyes lit up. Soon. In one day at most, they can go into battle. Look at my little babies. They are my proudest works. They are the elites whose combat capability can completely surpass that of the Kusanagi force. They will shock the dark world. Indeed. Qin Weibai nodded. They will shock the dark world. But that's not enough, Dr. Watanabe. I need more powerful warriors. Debian Xiangyuan. The soul of the Kusanagi force in East Island. 3 years ago, after being captured by Li Tianlan and Ninghu, Debian Xiangyuan was secretly sent to the headquarters of Samsara Palace. Samsara Palace had equipment and talents. Debian Xiangyuan had original skills and experience. The most important thing was that Qin Weibai's way of thinking was the reason why Debian Xiangyuan was willing to work for Samsara. Debian Xiangyuan thought that Qin Weibai's way of thinking was a real genius. She obviously didn't understand many things and could only give a vague direction and results. But after a lot of calculations and experiments, Debian Xiangyuan could often confirm the correctness of this way of thinking, so the way of thinking became the most advanced technology. For a scientific madman like Debian Xiangyuan, this was the most important thing. In 3 years, although he only created 9 super warriors, in terms of combat capability, these 9 people were stronger than the original Kusanagi force. Stronger? Debian Xiangyuan was a little stunned, then shook his head. No, I can't do it. If they are stronger, it will damage the vitality of my little babies. Don't worry about their vitality. Qin Weibai looked at the human body under the glass cover. Her eyes were calm and indifferent. Inside the glass cover in front of her was a man with blonde hair and a small scar on his face. This was Ghost. One of the 12 super masters of Samsara Palace. He was also a person who voluntarily accepted the transformation this time. Ghost's arms were covered with huge windows, and they were badly mutilated. But at this time, under the light in the glass cover, the metal luster in his flesh and blood could be seen. That was the color of the alloy. Their bodies are too weak. Qin Weibai said calmly, I want you to implant more and stronger alloys in their bodies. All the special alloys of samsara can be opened to you. Don't worry about the cost. No. Debian Xiangyuan screamed, and his old face became a little distorted for a moment. You are destroying them. You are destroying my babies. They are the most perfect. The most perfect, understand? If we implant more alloys, D*M it might double their defense, but their lifespan will be shortened, maybe only a year. This is. I'm not discussing with you, doctor. Qin Weibai said coldly, this is an order. What I want is not dispensable waste, but real elites. Don't you think 1 year's life cycle is too long? She took the box from Saint's hand and opened it. She said calmly, this is Mingi bomb, liquid, containing corrosive toxins and neurotoxins. She looked at Debian Xiangyuan's incredulous eyes and continued, in addition, the things in the number 1 lockbox can be used. That thing and Mingi bomb, I hope you can implant them into their bodies together with the alloys. This time, not only Debian Xiangyuan's expression changed, but also Flaming Fire's expression changed slightly. She knew what was in the number 1 lockbox. It was the poison of extreme heat and the poison of extreme cold. In the final battle of Heaven Capital 3 years ago, Samsara Palace helped the purgatory of Heaven Capital. The poison of extreme heat and the poison of extreme cold were one of the main rewards Samsara Palace got. The 2 poisons were only a little bit, but they were extremely terrible. If the poison of Mingi bomb was added, all of them were implanted into the bodies of the modified soldiers. In terms of toxicity, it was not even a toxin that could only threaten the thunder-shocking realm. If it broke out at that time, even the invincible realm would be a fatal threat. Debian Xiangyuan's face was a little dull. You're crazy, he looked at Qin Weibai in horror. In this case, their use cycle will be shortened again. My little babies can only live for half a year at most, or even less. Half a year is enough. Qin Weibai's expression was calm. But, no buts. Qin Weibai shook her head. She looked at Debian Xiangyuan and suddenly asked, Doctor, do you know which is the most powerful force in the dark world? Debian Xiangyuan froze for a moment. Subconsciously, he said a super force that no one could refute. The Wang family of Beihai. Yes, it's the Wang family of Beihai. Qin Weibai said calmly, they have always been the strongest martial arts force in the dark world. In every generation, there are at least 2 experts at the peak of the invincible realm. Today, every generation is like this. They have Beihai province, which even Zhongzhou state can hardly influence. They have a large army, advanced technology, and powerful force. After hundreds of years of ups and downs, they have always stood at the peak of the dark world. Such a family has an unimaginably deep foundation. Compared with the Li family and the Lin clan, the Wang family of Beihai is the only great family, almost unshakable. But unfortunately, they are not my friends. Qin Weibai looked at Debian Xiangyuan's eyes. The Samsara Palace doesn't have the foundation of the Wang family of Beihai, and I can't shake the Wang family of Beihai. All I can do is imitate the power of the Wang family of Beihai. As for the use cycle of your little babies, that's not something I think about, and I don't care about it. She gently patted the glass cover in front of her. Within 20 days, I want to see these remade soldiers. From today on, they are called. At the very least, they were able to anticipate all of this, and they would definitely have made sufficient preparations for everything that happened today. But Lin Fengting did not see any preparation from Samsara Palace. Like other forces, the Samsara Palace was also losing, holding on, and consuming. Moreover, because of their short appearance and lack of foundation, the Samsara Palace could even be said to have suffered the heaviest losses. In 3 years, 3 medium-sized consortiums attached to the Samsara Palace in Europe had been destroyed, and more than half of an elite force codenamed Samsara had been lost. As for the rewards, Lin Fengting stared at it for a long time. But he really didn't see what Samsara Palace had gained in the past 3 years. Not being able to tell was what puzzled him the most. He didn't know what the Samsara Palace wanted to do, nor did he know what benefits the Samsara Palace would get if it continued to develop like this. Was it because the Samsara Palace had been prepared, but the current situation made their preparation completely ineffective, or was it because of something else? Lin Fengting put down the document and took a sip of tea. The tea was already cold. It was a little bitter when it entered his mouth, but it was refreshing. What do you think? Lin Fengting looked at Lin Yuxian sitting opposite him and suddenly asked. Obviously, the situation is completely out of control. Lin Yuxian held the document in his hand. The Purgatory of Heaven capital has pinned down a considerable part of the Wang family of Beihai in Annan State. Although Beihai province is calm, their overseas forces have suffered heavy losses in the past 3 years. Nearly 30 intelligence agencies of the Wang family of Beihai in Europe and America have been destroyed, and a wealthy family attached to them has betrayed them. Kunlun City is even worse. The forces they have established overseas over the years have almost been wiped out. The entanglement between the Dark Knights and Knights Templars is actually the Vatican's suppression of the Dark Knights. But the escalating battle between them has aroused the dissatisfaction of the Shadow Throne. The Shadow Throne in Europe is an official agency. Although it is to deal with the Black Ghost in Africa, it does not rule out the possibility of intervening in the battle between the Vatican and the Dark Knights. In America, the fantasy world has joined forces with the Men in Black of Star State to resist Kunlun City, but the appearance of the Shadow Throne makes them hesitate. While they preserve their strength, they also give Kunlun City time to entangle with them in Star State. So the Men in Black in the fantasy world have begun to have opinions about the Jiang family of South America that invited the Black Ghost. And all kinds of signs show that the attitude of the Heroes Club is very ambiguous. There seems to be a deal between them and the Jiang family of South America. Lin Yuxian recalled the information that could not be more chaotic dully and said with a wry smile, at present, there are battlefields almost everywhere. The Polar Ground Alliance in Snow Country has recently had serious internal strife. It is said that the activities of the Samsara Palace have been found in Snow Country. In Europe, it is the battle between Knights Templars and the Dark Knights. The Vatican is involved, the Shadow Throne is covetous, and the Samsara Palace stands with the Dark Knights to fight against the Vatican. But there are also shadows of Kunlun City, the fantasy world, and the Jiang family of South America. The Men in Black is the official organization of Star State. At present, they seem to have their eyes on Kunlun City, but they also have ideas about the Shadow Throne, so they have frequent contact with the Samsara Palace. Recently, some masters have appeared in the camp of the Samsara Palace. They seem to come from the Purgatory of Heaven capital, but the masters of the Samsara Palace have also appeared in Annan State. The Heroes Club and the Jiang family of South America seem to have ideas about both sides. They have more small movements, and it is impossible to analyze their specific goals at present. Lin Yuxian rubbed his temples and said helplessly, there are too many possibilities now, and the relationship between the enemy and us is completely chaotic. The Wang family of Beihai, the Purgatory of Heaven capital, the Samsara Palace, Kunlun City, the Dark Knights, the Fantasy World, the Heroes Club, the Jiang family of South America, the Polar Ground Alliance, the Vatican, the Men in Black, the Shadow Throne. Dad, now all the forces in the Dark World, whether they are superpowers or official forces, are involved. There are too many possibilities. Any two forces may cooperate with each other, and naturally, they will betray each other. This situation is not good at all. Too many possibilities meant that the situation was completely out of balance, and no superpower had a reason to compromise. In your opinion, is there any beneficiary in such a chaotic situation? Lin Fengting asked. No. Lin Yuxian said without hesitation, everyone has suffered heavy losses. The Dark World has lost a lot of blood. In the past 3 years, including the final battle of Heaven Capital, the Dark World has lost at least hundreds of experts of the Thunder-Shocking Realm and more experts of the Fire-Flaming Realm. In this situation, there may be huge benefits in the end, but at least now, everyone is a loser. I think if they had known that there would be today's situation, they would not have chosen to go to war. It doesn't matter now how the war started. Any force is now fighting for the sake of war. They don't want to fight, but they have no choice and can't get out. Lin Fengting nodded. He agreed with his son. What's the key point? Lin Fengting asked again. The key point. Lin Yuxian tried hard to think about the information he had read. After a while, he suddenly raised his eyebrows and said, "The Samsara Palace." Lin Fengting narrowed his eyes and did not speak for a while. The Samsara Palace was indeed the key point. This chaos began when the Wang family of Beihai and Kunlun City joined hands to suppress the Samsara Palace. The situation was also completely out of control at that time. The war continued until now, and there were battlefields everywhere. Snow Country, Europe, America, Annan State, they were all fighting. And it was incredible that the Samsara Palace could be seen on all the battlefields. And they were all quite active. When all the superpowers didn't want to fight but had to fight, every time the Samsara Palace took the initiative, the situation would be more chaotic. Then it developed into today's irremediable situation. The Samsara Palace was indeed the key. In recent years, every battle that could escalate conflicts and contradictions seemed to be provoked by the Samsara Palace. So today, the Samsara Palace was also the party that suffered the most. But what did the Samsara Palace want? According to the current situation, the Samsara Palace absolutely could not win. Qin Weibai did not borrow Lin Fengting's sword. Even if Lin Fengting sold himself to the Samsara Palace, the Samsara Palace would not get any benefits. Why did she do that? Lin Fengting whispered to himself. According to the analysis of the intelligence, the Samsara Palace wants to get its own foundation. Lin Yuxian shook his head. This speculation is reasonable, but now it seems unreliable. Just for its own foundation, why does it have to make a scene that can't end? Even if it can't end, it will end. Lin Fengting said faintly, if it is forced to end, what do you think will be the result? Lin Yuxian subconsciously glanced at his father. Lin Fengting's face was calm. Lin Yuxian pondered for a while and said faintly, if it is forced to end, at least one superpower will be completely destroyed, maybe. There was a hint of caution and temptation in his tone. Maybe there will be new superpowers coming into the secular world, just like the purgatory of Heaven Capital appeared in Heaven Capital 3 years ago. Lin Fengting said noncommittally, which is the most likely force to be destroyed? The Samsara Palace. This time, Lin Yuxian did not hesitate. The destruction of the Samsara Palace is not possible. Now it seems that it is basically a foregone conclusion. Lin Fengting fell silent. He knew that what his son said was true. But how could people believe the fact that the Samsara Palace suddenly destroyed itself? Father, Lin Yuxian hesitated. In a short time, his face turned red, and cold sweat oozed from his forehead. Are we going to enter the secular world? Until now, he still did not know that Qin Weibai had asked Lin Fengting to borrow the sword. Lin Fengting suddenly found so much recent information about the Dark World. Lin Yuxian subconsciously felt that the Lin clan was going to enter the secular world. Why should we enter the secular world? Lin Fengting shook his head and whispered, we are different from the Wang family of Beihai. The Lin clan is a clan, the Wang family of Beihai is also a clan, and the Jiang family of South America is also a clan. The biggest difference between the latter two and us is that they are used to gathering all branches together, so that they will be more powerful, but there will be more internal hidden dangers. So they will clean up internal discord and contradictions from time to time. If these contradictions can be completely eliminated, they will continue to be brilliant until the contradictions accumulate again to the extent that they have to be cleaned up. The cycle will start again. If they succeed, they will still be at the peak. But if they fail, the consequences will be equally unimaginable. But we are different. We spread out all the branches. Everyone can leave and get enough support. If they want something, they can get it themselves. The headquarters of the Lin clan can shelter them when necessary, but there is nothing worth coveting here. If we don't enter the secular world, the Lin clan will always be the Lin clan. Maybe some branches will disappear and the connection will be broken, but we will have more branches go out. We don't pursue power, but freedom can create everything. Lin Fengting looked at his son with a smile and whispered, "I think it's good." Lin Yuxian breathed a sigh of relief and laughed. "I think it's good, too. But Qin Weibai of the Samsara Palace found me." Lin Fengting said, "She wanted to borrow a sword stroke from me. I agreed, so I came to look through these materials." "You agreed?" Lin Yuxian was shocked. "I just lent her the sword stroke that I owed the Li family." Lin Fengting shook his head. Lin Yuxian's eyes flickered, and he said thoughtfully, "When does she want to use this sword stroke?" "A month later, in Snow Country." Lin Fengting said. Snow Country. Lin Yuxian's pupils contracted, and he said with a smile, "She intends to completely involve the Polar Ground Alliance." "Dad, can I go to Snow Country with you?" Lin Fengting glanced at him. "I wanted to go to Zhongzhou State." Lin Yuxian said, "I'm about to enter the peak of the thunder-shocking realm. Maybe I'll get some inspiration, there's still time." Lin Fengting thought for a while and said, "Go to Zhongzhou State first, and then go to Snow Country." "There's no hurry." Lin Yuxian hesitated and nodded. "I heard that Li Tianlan is back. I'm looking forward to the battle between him and Wang Xingxiao. I'm afraid that the greater the expectation, the greater the disappointment." Lin Fengting said with a smile. "What do you mean?" Lin Yuxian looked confused. Lin Fengting shook his head and didn't say much. He just said casually, "Go if you want to. Be careful. Something big is going to happen in the dark world recently." Lin Yuxian nodded, stood up, and walked to the door. When he was about to walk out of the study, he suddenly paused and whispered, "Father, have you ever wondered why Qin Weibai asked you to borrow this sword stroke?" He hesitated and continued, "After all, Senior Li is still here." Lin Fengting's face was calm. He stood up, walked to the window, and opened it. It was late at night outside the window. Only the sound of insects could be heard in the quiet night. In Australia, after the curtain call of the opera, he found Qin Weibai, who had not left Sydney, and asked her this question. Since she wanted to borrow the sword, why didn't she go to Senior Li? The other party seemed to have more reasons to take action. But Qin Weibai's answer was extremely indifferent. That was the indifference of having no trust in the Li family. The Wang family of Beihai is overbearing, and the Li family of Zhongzhou State is paranoid. Only the Lin clan has affection. It's real. If there is a force in the world that I can completely trust, it can only be the Lin clan. This was Qin Weibai's original words. The Wang family of Beihai was indeed overbearing, but the Li family. How paranoid had it been over the years? Lin Fengting looked at the sparse starry sky outside the window, thinking. Lin Yuxian quietly retreated. A bright arc of light lit up the night sky as far as the eye could see. The arc of light flew and was brilliant in the night sky. With a momentary brilliance, it fell into the dim stars. The meteor fell. It began to drizzle in the sky. The rain was hazy. A clear yet blurry figure abruptly appeared below Lin Fengting's building. It was abrupt and natural. It seemed to be blown by the night wind, or falling by the rain. He appeared there without warning, but it was extremely harmonious. In the drizzle late at night, it was an ordinary but not ordinary middle-aged man. His appearance was ordinary. What was not ordinary was his dressing. He was dressed in plain clothes and shoes, and yet, in the middle of the night, the middle-aged man was wearing a pair of sunglasses. He was bald, and on his bald head were 9 neat and tidy ring scars. He could be said to be a monk, but he held a white horsetail whisk in his hand, a monk with a Taoist horsetail whisk in his hand. Or a Taoist priest with ring scars. Cloth clothes, horsetail whisk, ring scars, and sunglasses. These nondescript clothes were combined with him, but there was a kind of indescribable nature. He stood in the night and raised his head. His gaze seemed to pass through the falling rain and fall on the highest place. A trace of shock finally flashed in Lin Fengting's eyes. His figure flickered, and in the next second, he was standing directly beside the middle-aged man. "What's there?" Lin Fengting asked. His voice was loud, and he emphasized his words, which seemed very clear. He did not ask what the other party was looking at. Because he was blind. His voice was very heavy, because the other party was close to deaf and mute. He was Lin Su, Lin Fengting's younger brother. There was no such thing as a metaphysics grandmaster in the Lin clan, but Lin Su had been playing this role for many years. There was Wei Xian Xuanzi in Zhongzhou State. The people in the Lin clan did not know who was more profound, Lin Su or the other two. However, compared with the other two, Lin Su did not do a very good job of protecting himself. It was true that Lin Su was punished by the heavens for revealing the secrets of heaven. At the age of 20, Lin Su lost one eye, then the second eye, and all kinds of illnesses followed. His martial arts strength, which was not bad, began to plummet. So Lin Su began to shave. Then, when his hearing gradually became less sensitive, he picked up the horsetail whisk again. In recent years, Lin Su's hearing had been declining, and it had become a little difficult for him to even speak. In recent years, he had basically stopped speaking and even rarely appeared in front of the Lin clan. But every time he spoke, it basically meant that there would be one more powerful branch of the Lin clan. Lin Fengting had heard from his father that Lin Su's blessing in this life was extremely deep. In terms of luck, it was far more than Lin Fengting's by several times or even dozens of times. He was originally the most suitable person to be the patriarch of the Lin clan. If he had focused on martial arts, he was even expected to become a real chosen one, stronger than Wang Tianzong. But Lin Su came into contact with metaphysics. He destroyed himself and used his own blessing to condense the majestic luck for the entire Lin clan. The Lin clan stood in this world. If there was freedom and ease, there must be sacrifices. Lin Su was the sacrifice of the Lin clan. Lin Fengting was also the sacrifice of the Lin clan. Just like he named his son Lin Yuxian. The Lin clan was leisurely. How could Lin Yuxian really be leisurely in this life? Lin Su seemed to notice Lin Fengting. He raised his hand holding the horsetail whisk and pointed to the sky. His arm trembled violently. The snow-white horsetail whisk scattered in the night rain and was blown up by the wind, like a head of bitter white hair that had long lost any vitality. "Don't say it if it's not important," Lin Fengting said. "I have to say it." Lin Su's voice was hoarse and dry, and it seemed a little stiff and slow. The demon star fell. The demon star? Lin Fengting raised his eyebrows. Lin Su stood where he was and seemed to be thinking. "Are you going to enter the secular world?" He was silent for a long time before he asked, "That woman?" "Her name is Qin Weibai." Lin Fengting said, "Not for her. She borrowed the sword. I also borrowed the sword that I owed the Li family that year. She is the demon star," Lin Su said slowly. His voice did not become smoother as he spoke, but became more and more dry and stiff. He was a master of metaphysics, but he was not omniscient and omnipotent. At this moment, he knew Qin Weibai's name and Lin Fengting's sword. Only then could he know more things. "This sword will be used in Snow Country." Lin Fengting said, "You don't approve?" But one strike is not enough." Lin Su said with difficulty, "Fiend star, she's asking for death." "It's this man." "Qin Weibai?" Lin Fengting was shocked. He recalled the information he had read. He couldn't see any hope for the future of the Samsara Palace, nor could he see what the Samsara palace wanted to do. Was Qin Weibai asking for death? Was that the answer? However, why does she want to die? Lin Fengting asked. The corner of Lin Su's mouth was already bleeding. The blood dripped onto the ground, mixing with the sound of the rain. The sound was faint and distant. I'm dealing with a calamity on behalf of others. He replied. Who? I don't know, it can't be calculated. What happens after she dies? A new era. So what if I don't die? It is also a new era. Then why did she seek death? I'm dealing with a calamity on behalf of others. All the questions suddenly returned to the original point. Lin Fengting was thoughtful. It turned out that this was a dead knot that couldn't be avoided. There was no choice and no way out. Will she die? Lin Fengting asked. Lin Su was silent for a while, then said hoarsely, she will definitely die. Lin Fengting frowned. He didn't think there was anything wrong with it, but he felt it was a pity. It would be such a pity if such a beautiful and peerless woman were to perish. Lin Fengting whispered, what will happen in the Battle of Snow Country? The Fiend's star will cause chaos. The disaster of troubled times. After the troubled times, there would be a new era. Lin Fengting took a deep breath and whispered, I will still use this sword. One sword is not enough. Lin Su's body was a little shaky, and he seemed to be unable to stand steadily. His voice became weaker and hoarser. If you want the Lin clan to continue to prosper, you should protect her from death. Why? Lin Fengting's face finally changed. Cause and effect. Lin Su's voice was strangely hoarse. When he heard the word cause and effect, he inexplicably shivered all over. The world seemed to become extremely gloomy and cold in an instant. Puff! A mouthful of blood sprayed directly from Lin Su's mouth. Lin Su's body fell down softly. Lin Fengting was shocked and suddenly held him. Lin Su fell into Lin Fengting's arms. His face was pale, but he kept saying, Zhongzhou State, go to Zhongzhou State. You're tuning into the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.